for Zerg versus Terran.
All right, let's get into it. It's the grand final of the World Championship Series here for StarCraft 2 Season 1 in 2015. Oh boy, am I excited, as we have, spawning down to the bottom left-hand corner, a player that has shown such brilliant play here throughout the entire tournament. In the blue, it is Hydra. And up to the top right-hand corner, it's our red Terran, representing CM Storm, one of the most consistent players of all time here in StarCraft 2. It is Polt.
What an awesome matchup to have. Two guys that kind of showcased very different paths, and I really like that you brought up the qualifier result, because Hydra, for the most part, has been the bulletproof player ever since that first stumble that Rotterdam mentioned, the loss against Maro, which kind of blew everybody away. He's been just cruising along, not dropping too many maps, whereas Polt has stumbled here and there. He got in off the last qualifier. He was denied by Zergs like Hydra, like Kane as well, who also had a pretty good run in this tournament. This is where he needs to iron those out, because he won't be able to take too many more bullets in this final if he wants to get another championship.
No, not at all. Polt here has to lock down, has to play probably the series of his entire tournament against Hydra. Of course, he was the one guy in this tournament that took a map off Hydra, but Hydra, in the round of 16 onwards, hasn't dropped a map. Well, aside from obviously the one to Polt in the group stages, from the round of 8 onwards, he hasn't dropped a map. I got there in the end.
And it's important to note as we move through this that that map was the most Terran favorite one, statistically speaking. Catalina, which will be played out at some point in this best of 7. It's not too far off. Polt was able to get the second and third map picks, but I already like what we're seeing out of Polt. He's made a drastic adjustment. This map doesn't really favor Reaper play, but the command center first is his way of saying, I don't want to go for anything risky. I want to make sure that I can have my economy set up, because I know this is a game of mechanics against Hydra.
And Hydra's already going to spot this command center at the low ground in position to so he can't really do a whole lot against that. He went hatchery first into spawning pool behind all of this as well. So from there on out, grabbing his gas and making sure that eventually, once he has speed going along, he's going to be fine and well solidified.
Yeah, and the thing that the speed gives Hydra in this matchup is the ability to not only have a bit of a good defensive play against any early Hellions, or especially denying any Marines from pushing out to deny Overlords, but you have a lot of winding paths that you can run around. There's the 2 center destructible rock positions, which you can use to cut off bases for army movement later on in the game, but you can swing around the corners of the map to hit the 3rd base later on. He could, of course, always squeeze out a few links and try to get to work on those rocks if he had aggressive intentions for the later phase of this game. Already a very interesting choice made by Polt, as he's going for a very quick second barracks.
All the way took to the, well, actually, what's took to the back? It is actually the barracks took to the back. I was wondering if it was factory or barracks, but it is going to be all the way back there, and this might catch Hydra off guard. Getting an Overlord into the back on this map, I think it's quite difficult, no?
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at the way that the map is laid out, there's not a lot of space an Overlord could move towards that direction without being vulnerable. This isn't something like Catalina, where you have a lot of airspace to work with. This is a very difficult barracks to spot, and Polt could use this to go for a quick tech lab, which he's getting. I imagine we're going to see either a really fast combat shield or stim, depending on how fast he wants to get really aggressive. Hydra's going to do a bit of scouting with these few lings, though. He can check the front wall. He sees that this is a close to the chest opening. He doesn't want to expose himself to a big Zergling run by, and therefore builds the bunker next to the command center because of that.
And I've got to say, if the Lings or the Overlords managed to spot the front of the wall at the top of the main base here for Polt, is he selling a story to Hydra that is very, very difficult to comprehend what's behind it?
Yeah, well, the tricky thing is, Hydra could just be assuming that this is a very standard 3rd command center tucked behind. That's why your depots might be delayed. Usually you only get those depots out fast if you're worried about the speedling play. So Hydra's going to get up a lair. He's not really concerned. There's not much to worry about just yet. But the 3rd barracks that's coming in really shows that Polt is intending to make a big attack as his Hellion count continues to climb forward. So the one Overlord at the edge of the base has a Marine Viking patrolling in front of it. There's no chance in hell he's going to make it back there to see those two barracks. So Polt is waiting for an opportunity as Stim gets closer to make a big push and catch Hydra off guard.
The denial of that information is very, very strong as Polt shows the two Hellions at the front as well, showing him that it is more normal kind of factory play behind all of this. 33 workers to 40, whilst Hydra has been droning up behind all of this as well. But what's going on Hydra side of things?
Well, I mean, Hydra going for this lair play, very standard. A lot of Zergs taking cautions with things like this Spine Crawler, just in case that Terran player could throw down an armory at any time. But the goal for Zergs have generally been that 2-3 base Spire. It's nice that he gets the third hatchery in against anything that's standard, but he has a couple of consequences of this, that being a very late Baneling nest. So even though the lair is done, he can't get Baneling speed, but more importantly, we have a very big bio push that's getting ready to make its way across the map.
Well, the Hellions have already threatened a little bit down towards this third base. The Queens rallied over here to make sure that they can fend this off, but this leaves the potential of the natural a little bit vulnerable. But an Overseer coming in, spots the Marauders in the mineral line, and Hydra, what a brilliant scout.
Yeah, so there's a very, very important adjustment that Hydra needs to make. He immediately throws down the Baneling nest. He recognizes this is a big threat. There's always the potential that Polt drops an armory any second now, so that when the bio reaches the opposite side of the map, he can turn them into Hellbats. He needs Banelings in that instance. The couple of Marines that are there, even though it's quite Marauder heavy, Banelings killing the Marines allows the completing Spire for Hydra to deal with the Marauders with just Mutalisks alone. He might sack his third base, but with no third command center for Polt, it doesn't matter.
Well, this army down to the bottom here is gathering momentum for Polt. He's looking to threaten really, really quickly. That's a lot of Hellions he has to buffer for all the bioforce that he's going to have at the back. Drops a scan, tries to kill off some of these creep tumors, limit a little bit of the mobility as well as the vision here for some of the Zerg units. And he even gets some of the Zerglings for free to start this off.
Yeah, I mean, he forced out a pretty big stim just to hit those Queens. The Hellions are going to try to get these Lings to be kited back towards the bio. So far, so good. There are no Banelings. The Baneling nest only just recently completed. 20 more Lings on the way. Here come the Mutalisks. Those Marines are very heavily stimmed.
This is a very, very strong force that we're seeing here as the Hellions will push forward. Drones have to come off the line. It's going to be an absolute barbecue. Polt starts this off in a very, very fiery way. Even on top of this natural, he's going to run into the main base as well. Hydra is flustered. He is reeling from the damage that is being done as more drones fall.
Cleaning out that mineral line. Fantastic play by Polt, completely catching Hydra off guard as the Mutalisks will eventually clean this up. But you said it best, Kalaris. A big barbecue after a long day of StarCraft. I think Polt was a bit hungry in game one.
Oh yeah, he's imagining he's back in America, man, because this barbecue is going to be going on for a while. Polt at the moment, 43 workers to 29, and he's got those missile turrets being built at home to be able to deal with any kind of Mutalisks that are going to come along later. A nice little start here for Polt.
Yeah, we can see that he's moving other of his barracks to go build reactors now. He wants to get more Marines out since he's going to be playing a standard Zergling, Baneling, Mutalisk composition. We didn't see him throw up anything like a Roachhorn, but you know what else we don't see? Any evolution chambers. So I'm expecting that we'll have Baneling speed start at some point, but Hydra needs to make a recovery with something more than just straight up play. He needs to use the Mutalisks or some sort of burrow play to get himself back in this game.
The airspace behind these bases coming into play there as the Marines even got a few more scratches off on these Mutalisks. Couldn't really get out of there without taking too many more bruises, and armory going to be added on here for Polt as well. He was just going to be playing his normal go-to game from here on out.
Yeah, it's very important to mention that armory as upgrades are one of the ways that Polt can solidify his lead moving forward. Like I said, no evolution chambers. He's getting Baneling speed. He's hoping that he can just push out just enough Lings and Banelings to swallow this army one more time, even trying to get these rocks low because he just needs time.
Yeah.
The drones he's squeezing out on his 3 bases, he's got a lot of saturation that he can go for, but that won't give him time to get the larva out if these bioforces come soon enough.
Very, very telling a move there. Polt saw it. He knows. He can read into these kinds of things. Of course, he is one of the best players in the world, pretty much, as Polt going to head on down towards that third base, threaten the economy where it is most important here, and drops the scan, sees those Banelings morphing in. If the Marauders can soak up at the front, this could go well.
Yeah, Polt moving up this ramp, trying to get a little bit of damage done. Of course, the Banelings don't have that speed upgrade yet, though, Kalaris.
Yeah, and so the Marauders are creating a wall there at the front. They were being gunned down slightly there, though, by the Mutalisks, so good control by Hydra to make sure the crisis management is strong, morphing in a few more Banelings just to keep himself good.
Yeah, he's been cruising at like 450 actions a minute for the last couple minutes of this game, preparing for this fight. He's scrambling to get this game back together, but Polt is rallying down such a force across the map. With that, even +1 attack being an advantage against Zerg is not something very common. Usually it's that +3 upgrades, and Hydra's going to take a fight off creep.
If he can kill this now, it would be very, very good. The Widowmines are only just reinforcing as the Banelings end up moving forward, killing off one of those Widowmines at the front, but I don't think he has enough Banelings here to be able to push on these Marines as the Mutalisks are left exposed. He will push towards that third base. The Mutalisks are trying to fight on the outskirts of this small army, but I don't think it's enough.
Hydra with twice as many resources lost, taps out. GG, Polt takes game number 1 in the grand finals here for WCS Premier League Season 1.
Good stuff there by Polt to start things here in this best of 7, and what a little curveball. I mean, talk to me more about that, because that was something that I didn't really expect from Polt in this game.
And you know what? Of any of the TvZs that we've seen Polt play recently, Hydra shouldn't have expected it either. Polt pulled this completely out of left field. He used it on a map where he could specifically plan for Overlords to have a lot of difficulty getting to that back corner of the base. This map really allowed for Polt to make this play. If he tries it on any other one, it's so much easier for Hydra to see this coming, so much easier to get Baneling Nest in time, and perhaps maybe even just pull everything away from that third base, because his queens were separated very far away from the actual army before the fight even began.
And our next map here, Nathanias, is Catalina, a map that very difficult to make something like that happen, I feel. So what's Polt's real go-to here? Obviously, he tried a trick there in game number 1. It did work out successfully after the secondary push, obviously getting a lot of drones himself. What's his go-to really on Catalina against Hydra?
I think this is a great map for Polt to just slow things down. He's in a position where he's up 1-0, and he's taken one of these 7 maps that generally favors Zerg heavily in the long game. Catalina favors Polt heavily in the long game. You have a lot of airspace that you can drop around. You mentioned earlier on the panel, those Reapers can do a lot of damage moving up and around the cliffs. This is something that really needs to be taken very cautiously by Hydra, since Polt, he doesn't have any more pressure to do anything aggressive. He won't have any more Zerg favorite maps to play on for at least 2 more games.
All right, well, here is that map, Catalina. The countdown has begun for game number 2. Polt takes an early lead in this series, as a lot of people expected Hydra to be able to ramp it up here and really power on home, but Polt steals that one away from Hydra to start things off. It's a best of 7, though. There's still a long road to go as we get into this next game. I'm expecting Hydra to really step it up here, Nathanias. I'm expecting him to come out with all guns blazing, even though Zerg can't hold guns. Unless you're an infested Terran, of course.
Be a good time to pull something wild out, that's for sure, Kalaris.
That's true. All right, let's get into it as we have spawning down to the bottom right-hand corner here. It's our blue Zerg, currently 1 game down in this best of 7 series. It is Root Hydra. And to the left-hand side of the map here, as our Red Terran, able to sneak in a very, very cheeky build there in game number 1. It is CM Storm's Polt.
Of course, awesome crowd out here in Poitiers. A lot of people tuning in online. This has been a really exciting weekend of StarCraft action. This final 2 players that really, when you compare the results of them, Hydra's been good for a while, you know, playing on CJ Entis, but one of the reasons why these guys come out here, they want to get a chance to play in front of crowds like this. They don't get these opportunities as often in Korea, and to really showcase themselves as individuals, and I think this has just been a massive success so far for the Root Gaming Zerg.
Aside from what we saw in BlizzCon, places like that, Katowice, and obviously Iron Squid 2, whilst I was here for that as well, the crowd here has been one of the loudest, one of the most excited crowds of all time. Obviously, the French casters do a great job of being able to hype those guys up.
It's been really cool, and already on Catalina we see a very different opening from Polt, something that, you know, fits the map a bit more appropriately. He gets the gas after starting the barracks. We will most likely see him play Reaper. So far throughout the WCS, this round of 16 weekend, he has been favoring 3 Reaper openings against Zerg. So he gets that 3rd Reaper at the expense of a slightly later factory, but the damage that he can do with those Reapers keeps the Zerg in a position where it's still a bit difficult to deal with the Hellion follow-up, and if Polt can get a lot of damage done by killing either drones, Zerglings, or even just chunking out hit points on the Queens, he can do a lot of follow-up damage once the Hellions join them.
Now, theorizing that Polt doesn't do as much damage as he did in that first game, even though, you know, Terran is pretty darn good on this map. What's Hydra's game plan here? Because this is a map where Zergs have had a little bit of difficulty, I would say.
You know, I really liked the aggressive sort of plays that we saw to Zerg against Polt on Overgrowth yesterday. It was just, you know, that's a map that generally Zergs like the long games. I'm actually very surprised to see Polt throwing this bunker a bit. It's like uncharacteristically aggressive of him to do this.
Yeah,
Perhaps he's just trying to force a lot of drones to come down. If he slips up unless it's finished, but to finish my point, basically this is a map where it wouldn't be a bad idea for Hydra to do something very aggressive, either Roach, Baneling related, but Polt could be expecting that.
Yeah, we do see a lot of Ling, Roach, Bane actually going into this map. Kane used it earlier on in this tournament in very, very effective fashion.
Yeah.
But now this Reaper is going to macro away. The bunker was allowed to finish. Hydra didn't even react to it in relation to being a bit more aggressive with his drones to deny the SCV, and that will be a bit of an annoyance here to clean up at the natural.
Yeah, it could come back to bite him further on. He's going to have to build more Lings than he'd otherwise normally build. Generally, you get about 6. Now he's already queued up 6 more. That's potentially 3 drones that Hydra could have produced this early in the game. And since it's a 3 Reaper opening, he's actually going to be able to do quite a bit of damage. And if he pulls out just in time, he can even salvage the bunker and basically do all of this for a little of the SCV's mining time and the 25 minerals it costs to salvage.
Well, he's already forced out a lot of extra Lings. Third Reaper is already on the way across the map here, which, again, you know, provides him more ample firepower. The Reaper's going to dive out of there before they even get chance to bring down that at any time. Salvage goes down. Polt saves himself tons and tons of money, forces out tons of Lings. What a great little move there by Polt.
Yeah, just a tiny move to put himself just a little bit further ahead at the start of this game. Now, Ling speed is very close to finishing, so Polt won't want to hang around here too much longer. He's already done pretty much what he needs to do. The 3 Reapers forced out a lot of Lings. He had to pull the Queens down and prevented any drones from also moving to that natural expansion. And I think the follow-up is great, just going for this 3rd command center.
Yeah. Funny that he's actually ended up throwing that down in vision of the Overlord, so he does actually notice it during all of that. But at least what we see there from Polt is he's positioned that there to take this base so that he can continue pushing down this avenue, I believe, Nathanias, and then applying pressure whilst also defending.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic way to play. If you take the 3rd base up top where these Zerglings are hiding, in the later stages of the game, running by that base with Lings is very easy. Your barracks production isn't going to rally past that base, which makes it just a more susceptible target. It's easier to take it as a planetary later on, lock it down, don't worry about the small harass.
The composition so far that Polt going for, that usual Reaper and Hellion coupling together to try and do something, is very, very powerful. That being said, though, this starport here with a medevac adding another spanner in the works here, but a couple of Lings run by. They will try and do something to these Zerglings. They'll get cleaned up without seeing too much about that starport going on at the moment.
Yeah, not seeing that starport is a very risky thing because Polt is also adding in the armory. We actually saw him do this multiple times in his Terran versus Zerg games here in the round of 16 in this weekend, moving forward. And this can be really tricky to deal with because once again, Hydra's making this play where he goes for the fast spire. Sure, he doesn't have the 3rd base to stretch himself thin with, but there's once again no Baneling nest. Banelings are pretty good versus Hellbats, Kalaris.
Yeah, there's still a lot of potency behind what we're seeing here from Polt, despite that 3rd base not being up and good to go here for Hydra. Of course, that is the weak target. That drone trying to sneak around, you cheeky fellow, and does not get that 3rd base down. Picks up some of the Hellions, going to go straight into the main base, splitting this up a little bit, maybe trying to stretch Hydra left and right. Very, very thin on these 2 locations. Despite being only 2 locations, there's a potentially could do some damage against just Lings alone.
Yeah, I mean, 4 Hellions being elevated into the main base, turning into Hellbats. These guys can take out a ton of Lings if used correctly. Hydra moved the Spinecrawler. He's doing a great job of pushing away with the Queens. He just wants to watch out for Polt counterattacking in the natural.
Really good movement there by the Hellbats in the main base. The wraparound here from the Lings, though, on the Hellions, down to the low ground. Will kill off quite a lot of them, chase them all the way back. But the Hellbats, how are they doing in the main base? Going ham on a few of these Queens, pushing those away. Hydra is controlling this great considering the situation.
Yeah, I'd say this was a fantastic case of divide and conquer for Hydra in terms of defending this push. Polt still has some Hellbats alive, but the Mutalisks are on their way out. Just needs to hold on a little bit longer and he should be okay.
Good start, good start. He doesn't want to be losing any more of these drones, though, at all. He will kill off the rest of these Zerglings. The Queens should be enough to push these down. There's no medevac left over available to actually heal these guys up.
Yeah, this is one of the few situations where I would say that Polt could have done a little bit more if he just pushed with everything at the front, since Hydra was already relocating the spine crawler. He was very concerned. The scan from Polt shows him everything he needs to see, that it's a spire. Okay, well, Polt's got 2 barracks about to finish up. The real question is, how many Marines does he have to defend, and does he have any turrets?
He doesn't really have any at all. 5 Marines at the moment. There are turrets being erected here in the mineral lines, but this leaves them very vulnerable. This was started quite late. Polt, the look of desperation on his face there, has to cancel the missile turret, knowing that this was way, way too late, Nathaniel.
Yeah, Hydra did a phenomenal job of defending against that Hellbat push, barely taking any losses. The Zerglings wouldn't be useful. He was all about the Mutalisk play. Polt wants to do a counterattack. This is very important because he needs to distract Hydra, or at least pull these Mutalisks away.
Needs to do some damage. He lost 20 SCVs to those Mutalisks. The Hellions dart on in. They're not going to transform into the Hellbats at all. They just want to prefer the mobility. Try and get into that main mineral line. Try and do some damage here to the drones. Gets a few of them to start things off. 5 have already fallen down. The Hellions continue to roast up a few more. 7 have gone down in total. It gets cleaned up finally, but that was a step forwards for Polt to try and get back into this.
Yeah, but with the Mutalisk play, you know, he almost got pushed a couple steps further back. There's 32 SCVs to 51 drones. Even with Mule economy, Polt is significantly behind in income. It's going to be very difficult for him to take that 3rd base without having a good big core of Marines, and also with just how active Hydra's been. If he steps out and those Mutas come in and grab another add-on, taking that 3rd base, it's just going to be a pipe dream for a while because it's quite exposed, it's quite open. This has been a phenomenal start, this map, for Hydra.
1-1, about equal here for both of these players, but at the same time, of course, Hydra has that heightened production because he was able to do that damage, because he has 20 extra workers across 3 bases now. So a very, very good start to the game here for Hydra in game number 2, as the wall off for Polt will continue on. That will deny any more Lings getting in. And this is going to be an uphill struggle for him. He needs to do some drop plays, surely.
Matt, there's a couple of things that I like that Polt has set up. He has a Widow Mine protecting the exposed refinery in his main base. If the Mutas come in and poke, try to grab any SCVs, he's got a chance to make a... You know, these are areas that normally a Zerg player really wants to abuse. So Polt can try to get back in this by baiting out those shots. But I love that Hydra keeps trickling in Lings because he knows he's ahead in workers. He just wants to make sure he has enough units that if Polt tries anything, he can immediately shut him down and send him back to the Stone Age.
You know, 7 extra Mutalisks going to be added on here to this army. He goes a little bit too close, and that Widow Mine will get a bit of a connection with those. Marines come in for the support and take down another Mutalisk there. So good preparation by Polt to make sure that he's not taking too many SCV kills.
Yeah, this is, once again, going back to something that happened to Polt a lot so far in his performance this weekend. The supply blocks, he's been stuck at 89 for a good while. 2 depots are just now finishing, but you can see on the production tab, all those units just now starting, just now building more medevacs, just now adding more Marines and more SCVs. And if we look at everything else, the upgrades are slightly ahead. It doesn't mean much for Hydra, but at least he won't be behind at any point for a long time.
And Polt needs to realize that this Mutalisk cloud on the left-hand side is gathering momentum. It is quite large now in comparison to where it was. 12, of course, he did lose a few of them from there on out. Maybe Hydra can threaten, but the thing is that surely you can't be playing as a Terran here when the Zerg is feeling this comfortable that the Mutalisks are not having to defend.
At this stage of the game, as a Terran player, you want to be pushing across the map and trying to deny a 4th. It's the most important move you're going to make in the whole entire game. But the Mutalisks have done a great job of slowing him down. The Zerglings are very well positioned to go for a counterattack in the 3rd base, and the creep spread's quite far. Kalaris has got Banelings rolling towards that 3rd.
Oh, he's going to lose quite a few SCVs here. He's not prepared, and he will not actually react in time to that. Big deal there as Polt once again takes another blow in this game.
Yeah, at this point, he wants to try to clear up creep spread as well. It'll make it very difficult for him to take engagements. We saw Kane utilize that to great effect, but Hydra's been in a comfortable position. He actually has drones on his 4th. He's producing a ton of Banelings, and since the Polt is still a little bit supply capped, you can see he's not even building any Marines.
He's got to be very, very careful about moving out this far. He picks up a lot of those units, but the Mutalisks are going to be able to chase them down. Hydra on the pursuit now. Oh, those reinforcing Marines here for Polt will shoo them away, but Polt, how can he step out onto the map here when Hydra has such a dominating position?
He needs to wait for Hydra to make a mistake. Polt has put himself almost too far behind, and Hydra's going to come in and punish him even further. He's like, I got a bunch of overseers. I'm going to come contaminate your buildings. They won't be able to produce any units for 30 seconds, and complementing that on top of the supply blocks has really hurt him.
Here he goes again. That's a lot of banelings. These Marines have to be very, very careful about their positioning. A few Widow Mines as he runs on back. The Overseers are actually soaking up some of the Widow Mines, crushing through a lot of this Bioforce up against the wall on the left and the right. Finds his way all the way through to the third base. And Polt was forced to take this third base because he couldn't be aggressive down to the bottom right-hand side. So Hydra chasing Polt all the way home, knocking down the door and saying, hello, I'm about to kill all your SCVs.
Yeah, just 56 lings in the production tab. Third command center dead. Hydra is just plowing through Polt on Polt's map, on the Terran favored map.
Unbelievable. GG. Game number 2 goes to Hydra. He ties up this best of 7 series 1-1. And Nathanius, where did it all go wrong for Polt there in game number 2?
Polt tried to be a little bit too fancy with that attack in the main base, man. He lifted the 4 Hellions in there, but Hydra very intelligently realized what was going on, moved the Spine Crawler there, and he didn't use any of his Zerglings. He just microed his Queens. He bought time. We saw that those Hellbats, took a little while to die, but he distracted Polt and then went for the Hellions outside the natural because his creep spread started so early. Killing those off allowed him to focus all of his defenses on that, but he got to Mutalisk without losing any drones, so he could comfortably take the third base, and everything just spiraled out of control when the Mutalisk went for the counterattack. Normally, as a Terran, you're expecting to have enough forces alive in the Zerg's base that if Mutalisks pop, they have to waste time killing the Hellbats or chasing down the Medevac. Since the Mutas didn't have to do that, they punished how late those missile turrets were.
And now we move on to Overgrowth for game number 3 here in this best of 7 series. A map that, a lot of people feel very comfortable on. It's been in the ladder pool for absolutely ages. But Nathanius, going on to Overgrowth here, who are you favoring out of Hydra and Polt?
I'll be honest, I like this map for Zerg only because when you take that 4th base in the back corner, you're forcing the Terran player, if they want to make that standard push onto the 4th, to go down basically the alley of death. You're in a very tight choke point where the Zerg player can easily spread creep turrets from their 3rd base before they even think about taking a 4th, and it makes it quite tricky. But the short rush distances also open up the opportunity for Polt to make similar plays to the one on the last map, including, but not limited to, Hellbat pushes.
Oh yeah, we've seen Polt use a whole lot of that already in this 2 games. One to great effect, the other not so much, but as you said, you were mentioning couple it all together at the front, really try and power on home there, whilst your opponent is a little bit more distracted elsewhere. Now, Overgrowth being map number 3, going up 2-1 in a best of 7 would be nice, of course, but it's still not game ending. That's the great thing about a best of 7. You really determine who is the better player at the time here, I think.
Yeah, the coolest thing for this as we start the countdown for this game has been, we saw that the first Zerg favored map Expedition Lost went for Polt with a cool build that he had, and then Hydra just making a really solid defense on the Terran favored map was allowed to pick that up. So this series not quite meeting my expectations. It's evenly matched, sure, but the maps that they won, I'm a little bit surprised.
All right, well, we're loading up game number 3 on the way here. Overgrowth, Ellie will be our map, has been in the pool since season 2 of last year in 2014 as Hydra and Polt face off against one another here in the grand final of the World Championship Series. Spawning down to the bottom left-hand corner, it's our blue Zerg representing Team Root and pulling it back in this series to 1-1. It is Root Hydra. And up to the top right, it's our red Terran representing CM Storm. It is Polt.
Now, one very nice thing for Hydra throughout pretty much all of this series, he can write off, for the most part, any type of proxy play. Polt is not someone who goes proxy 2 racks almost ever. He's not somebody who goes proxy Reaper, so Hydra can comfortably go for builds like Hatch first. He can take his gas before getting his pool. We're very unlikely to see him feel pressure to do anything like cutting drones to get a faster spawning pool or even drone scouting. It's just not necessary.
And Barrack's going to be added on, obviously, here for Polt, just to go down the standard route with that extra gas being added on as well. So, Reaper play here from here, Nathanius?
Yeah, it makes sense. This isn't the best map ever for Reapers, but there's a little bit of space you can work with by that ramp, and this is also one of the maps that Zergs have, occasionally shown a tendency for throwing a couple of lings to run around the side. We actually saw Firecake manage to get a cancel on a command center of Polt on this map using tactics like that. So the Reaper just gives you this flexibility that says, maybe I can't do as much damage as a map like Catalina would let me, but I'm going to be safe against most of the cheeky things you could throw at me.
Well, Hydra, pretty much his debut in WCS, in the system here, in the Western Hemisphere, is on the verge of doing something very, very special throughout that debut. But can he rival someone like Polt, almost potentially a 3-time champion coming out here in Polt, which would be quite the feat itself. But Hydra has shown that he can stand up against him. The Reaper is going to be on the way from Polt, and he doesn't want to be losing any drones here.
Yeah, the second supply depot from Polt is a big indication that he wants to continue producing SCVs and Reapers, so no quick reactor from him. It's nice that the Overlord can confirm this for Hydra. Sometimes there have been Terran players who will build a Marine after that first Reaper, but in this instance, Polt hasn't really shown that, you know, he's willing to play that crazily. So the command center starts up, and he's just going to be playing very, very standard. This Reaper's going to look across the map. Once he sees how far the creep has spread from the hatchery, he'll know it was a hatch first, which will confirm there shouldn't be any lings on the map to worry about.
They will be popping in a little bit, but as you said, he doesn't need to worry about them coming from an alternate angle. They're just going to be coming from the egg straight away, so he can control and anticipate that as it goes on. Will bring a few of these down, maybe. He's already got himself 1 kill. A few more may come along here as he's trying to work away at the drone on that extractor.
Yeah, the nice thing for Polt here as he continues to put this pressure on is since he opened up with speed, he already denied himself a little bit of mineral income, so even just killing a ling or two is okay for the Reapers. Once the second and the third one show up, he'll want to get a bit more, but I actually really like the speed timing of Hydra since he doesn't have to worry about any aggressive play. He got it so quickly that by the time Hellions are out, he could actually have Speedlings kill these Reapers, and Polt is playing with a bit of fire here.
Yeah, they're getting very, very close to that Queen. I was going to say dicey, but I'm not going to go for that. I'm not going to fall into your trap over in America. Maybe later on. With these Reapers now still bouncing back and forth. The Queen did move aggressively towards the ledge on the high ground, but has since left and gone back to injecting, making sure Hydra can be as efficient as possible.
Yeah, Polt actually needs to get out of here. He did kill a couple Lings, but a few more were made in turn. 6 Zerglings. If these Reapers have any damage taken on them from those Queens, they could be caught off guard. And I mean, Hydra's still just pumping out drones, so he's telling us, I'm not trying to get aggressive. This was purely defensive speed. Maybe I can use it aggressively later, but it's not a big concern of mine in the early game.
Well, for Polt, Starport is on the way behind all of this. He does have 2 gas, and the Starport is very, very far towards the back here, and it's not been spotted thus far by this Overlord. What is this going to be used for here, Nathanius?
Well, I mean, a couple of these Zerglings actually pick off an SCV in the natural, but the Starport, I have to imagine we're going to see close to the same exact play that we got the last game, Kalaris. It's going to be most likely a Hellbat push using the medevac to ferry those Marines across the map safely. The Hellions clear the way, and he makes that big push at the front because look what Hydra's doing. He's going for a lair once again without a Baneling speed, without a lot of gases, and this Spinecrawler starts a bit later than usual, but should be done by the time this medevac is out there.
After game 1 and things like that, I think Polt has found a little bit of comfort maybe in bringing the aggression to Hydra very, very early on in this series. The third base location is the path down where Polt was moving is somewhere that can be vulnerable against Zergs, but Hydra is usually quite prepared for those kind of plays.
Yeah, Hydra slipped a few more Lings by the wall. I don't believe he's really seen what he wants to. Not being able to see either gas didn't tell him whether there was an infrastructure income enough for him to build something like that starport and go for the medevac. So this could actually catch him off guard. We still don't have a Baneling nest on the way, and I would say just like the last game, I'd really like Polt to push up the front. In fact, if the Spine's not at the third, he could just knock this down too. Yeah,
definitely. The Queens are spreading creep over there. Hydra always knows that that is going to be a point of contention, so trying to get the creep over there and the Queens in place to try and defend it. But here comes a small poke forwards. Meanwhile, the other units on the left-hand side are trying to go into the main base with the medevac very, very soon, and this could cause some hurt. But he already sees the Hellions in place.
Ooh, that's really nice. You know, Hydra is such a fast player, it's unlikely that he will miss that since he's paying very close attention. He already has some Zerglings in his main, and even the power of Hellbats, like if these Zerglings get under the medevac and he catches them before they can transform, he can actually shut this down even easier than the last game.
Definitely. Overseer's even morphing in as well, and the Hellions drop in, but they're morphing as they're being killed off. He's going to actually do a lot of damage to those Zerglings, but he denies it completely.
Yeah, he's going to try to make a move towards the natural, scanning to kill some creep. It's nice, but Polt, you invested a lot into this. You want a little bit more, buddy.
He's going to keep on going forwards, trying to find some damage with these Hellbats. Here come the Lings again. How much damage is he going to be able to do? The Micro's back against that. One of the Hellbats will end up falling. Hellbats in the main base also drop down to try and pursue that Queen, and he actually kills off all the Lings in there as well with those 2 Hellbats that were quite weak. Really needs to be able to heal one up. The Lings are going to come and try and wrap around, but still, he's able to keep them alive and get them into another position where he's trying to threaten all these drones.
Yeah, Polt's really trying to make the most of the few units that he does have. That Queen should be able to push this medevac away. Might. Oh,
close. Not enough creep.
That was too close for comfort. Really nice things to note. Polt gets a Viking out, so he's going to be able to clear out this Overlord that's blocking his third base. But let's just take stock of the situation right now. Polt got the missile turrets. He has them on the way. He built the engineering base, of course, so he's now starting the upgrades. They shouldn't be too much further ahead of these upgrades for Hydra. Since he started a couple of Mutalisks and his centrifugal hooks, the Baneling speed, I don't know that he can immediately afford to start both upgrades, so Polt will enjoy a very small lead for a little while.
Look at all the methods he uses to try and block that third base. This one's already being blocked with creep. The other one was being blocked with creep. Now he's got Lings there. He had a Changeling even blocking, making sure he's not going to be able to land. Small things like this make Hydra one of the very, very best players here in the WCS. As he's going to dive in again into that mineral line. This time, though, Polt is prepared for those Mutalisks.
Yeah, losing one Mute to the missile turret, a bit reckless, one could say, and I would actually like to see him grab that Viking, since that Viking will eventually be a threat to the Overlord, blocking the potential fourth base. But all things considered, this game is still in a very even position because Polt did not do a crazy amount of damage with the Hellbats. He killed some Lings, but the whole point of defending that without Banelings is you're saying to yourself, well, I put the gas into tech, I can throw away the mineral cost units, and I will say that Polt really wants to get this third base situated immediately. That's the only concern. If this was delayed by another 30 seconds to a minute, I'd start to really worry because Hydra's now fully saturated on 3 bases.
And there is the fourth base going on down towards the bottom. He's just started that, so he will be propelling himself very, very far forward. The Viking actually sees that, and he even sees drones heading down there, so he knows the kind of economical state that Hydra is in and why on earth not, Nathanias.
I mean, you've got it there. Not many Overlords to kill. Just push those drones away. Long-distance mining. At least he knows about the fourth, but you know, there was something else that I pointed out as we were loading into this map. The creep spread from the third base. The tumors are starting to spread out, and we see just that only open area for Polt to try and push this fourth is this very tight alleyway, which is good for Banelings.
Yeah, Ling's going to go for a little bit of a counter over towards that third base, and the full wall is going to be completed here soon for Polt, realizing that's very important. One of those Lings that gets kicked out of the way by the SCV. As for now, Polt is gathering momentum with this army. 19 Banelings on the way. How are the economics sitting right now? Is Hydra in a good situation here?
Yeah, Hydra's in a great position. All he needs to do is win one solid fight, defend this fourth base. That's generally your key to victory in Terran versus Zerg. If he doesn't take a huge amount of damage, then he can start the extractors on his fourth base. Right now, he just wants minerals to build Zerglings to hold this push. But once he gets those extractors, he can move into big tech, getting towards Hive, getting those additional upgrades, and really making Polt fear the late game that Zerg can bring.
He's clearing up some of that creep as well. That's a good start here for Polt, making sure that he doesn't have too much to fear in regards to either that going all the way over to his bases. But that being said, Hydra is looking to get aggressive right on top of this. There are 2 Widow Mines there. A big amount of damage has actually been done to all of this, and he's going to continue pushing on forward, but I don't know if he can continue this. Well, his Mutalisks are very, very weak.
Yeah, both of these players just traded away a lot of very expensive units. I mean, most of the Mutalisks do get away. He doesn't kill off all the medevacs, but you traded away a lot of your Banelings for mostly mineral-heavy Marines, and this is a situation in the game where, like I said, you want to secure that fourth, and because Polt just was worried about defending the Ling counterattacks. He built that big depot wall at his third. He's been playing a bit more passively. This works very heavily in Hydra's favor since he has those extractors that I mentioned on the fourth base. He can afford to make significantly higher Baneling counts and also start to stockpile Mutalisks. That's where this game gets very scary for Terran, when the Mutas have enough damage output to just knock these turrets. And Polt's already worried about it. We can see he's adding extra turrets in his main base just in case.
And as the creep extends out from that fourth base, it's making it all the safer. There's no dead airspace on this map, so very easy for him to spot anything that would head down there if it was going to be a drop. But Polt's game plan at the moment is head straight down the middle. This is all the army that he actually has right now by the looks of things. He should have a little bit of pocket down towards the middle, but he gets pinned up against the wall, and a huge chunk of his army, or a small portion, he actually gets cleaned up for free.
Yeah, and losing those Hellbats, not very fun. Polt has 5 Widow Mines on the map. He's already moving to Thor production. We have 2-2 finishing up pretty close in time between these guys. So all things considered, the army compositions are very well rounded on both sides. He can afford an absurd number of Banelings because of the aforementioned gases. Yeah. Is he going to take this fight off creep, though?
Looks like he may end up doing. The Widow Mines are not burned. They don't have drilling claws, so that's going to cause them a few problems and actually being able to do damage when they need to. That being said, though, he doesn't have that many more Banelings to actually push this away. The bio has been able to hold strong, chasing down these Mutalisks. Polt will be able to take a pretty strong victory there.
Yeah, the Widow Mine shots were key there. Even if you engage first with the Mutalisks, oftentimes they'll be floating over those expensive Banelings that run in after the Zerglings. Hydra choosing to take a fight off creep may have cost him a big opportunity that Polt could now use to turn the map around or get his own 4th base.
Good small pickings, getting a Widow Mine on the very edge of that army. There is that sensor tower, so it's very difficult for those Mutalisks to ever get the jump on that position up towards his 3rd base. Polt is now on the warpath, going down towards this right-hand side, looking to threaten this location, if not anything, to clear up this creep. Once he knows that eventually this will be the place he needs to actually shut down.
Taking a couple of really nice small trades.
Going in with those Bailings, going to kill off quite a bit of that Bio Force there. The Thor actually gets picked up at the very end of its lifespan, and the Mutalisks are coming in. There are still that Thor available. Second Thor gets picked up as well. If you can get these out of there, it would be nice. He's actually doing quite a bit of damage there to the Mutalisks and trading off, but Hydra has taken a significant army supply.
You know, Kalaris, as quickly as I was to scold Hydra for fighting off creep, I have to scold Polt for fighting on creep.
Yeah.
It just makes it so much easier to get in position, and now Hydra's going for a big counterplay.
Keeps chasing on forward, keeps trying to get on these reinforcements. That Thor stands no chance here against the Ling and the Mutalisks.
I mean, if you look at the production tab, Hydra's just going all out on units. He has 4 saturated bases. He knows that Polt doesn't have those 3-3 upgrades, and he just wants to push back and just take the game now.
Here comes the Siege Army with those Banelings morphing in. There you go, GG. Game number 3 goes to Hydra. He's happy about that one, giving the fist pump as well, and a good way there to really set his momentum in this series.
It feels weird to compare the map to Catalina, even though Hydra won it, but you can just see that 4th base was so well protected by the creep spread. Polt, by the time that he was able to get out there, he would have had to go through so far that there would have been multiple waves of Banelings coming at him, and he could have even been sandwiched from both directions. It takes a long time for that creep to dissipate. You need to build momentum on Overgrowth if you want to be able to beat a Zerg player.
And there you go. For the first 3 games, Polt stole away, arguably, with that very, very aggressive play. Don't want to discredit him too much. Still a very, very strong play there by Polt. He stole away game number 1, and then game 2 and 3. So far, Hydra, especially in that last game, showed a lot of class, a lot of potential, good defensive setup, and then from that point on, great creep spread and great offense as well.
Yeah, when you talk about the strategies that both players are going for, Hydra's just been playing ball. You know, Mutalisk on either 2 or 3 hatcheries, nothing super out of the ordinary. Polt's been opting for this Hellbat push, and the Medivacs, it's nice, it delays your upgrades, but it also gives you a little bit of defense if the Zerg was to get aggressive towards you. So I can see multiple reasons why Polt would opt for that strategy.
All right, well, that does it from us here for now. We're going to go to our experts for a little halftime break here in this best of 7.
Thank you very much, Kalaris. I'm joined once again with Fenner, Rotterdam, and Todd. What are our thoughts so far of this series? It's been quite an entertaining one. I've actually been having a lot of fun watching this, but let's break this down a little bit more.
Yeah, very, very aggressive series so far. Polt seems to be going with the aggressive route in this, not going for that 3-base style, although he did do it in the last game. But even though he went for 3CC in the last game, he still went for the Hellbats. He seems to be breaking out these weird builds. In the first game, we saw a build we haven't seen since Wings of Liberty. It was a Marauder Hellion thing that we haven't seen for a long time, just going in there, and it completely caught Hydra off guard. So it seems like the game plan from Polt is just to mix it up and try and confuse Hydra.
Roddy, you've been watching it in the audience. How's it out there?
Oh, it's awesome, man. The French commentators are going crazy. I have no idea what they're saying, but that's really fun. I think overall pretty good games. I mean, the first one, obviously, Polt got in a phenomenal position after he killed so many drones, so I guess we don't have to go too much into that. Yep. And I felt on Catalina, like things could have gone a little different once or twice if Polt would have had similar engagements like he had earlier in this tournament where, you know, that clump of Marines does survive that bailing wave. Then suddenly you're looking at a different series. And imagine if he would have gone up 2-0. But, you know, overall, I think it's been fun. Nothing too super crazy yet, but definitely entertaining games.
It kind of feels like right now to me, Hydra, and you know, in more standard games, like in longer games, he's just doing better overall.
Yeah.
So this is a little bit worrying for Polt for the rest of the series, to be honest.
I mean, thinking of this as then a problem for Polt, if the game goes to the deeper stages, Hydra's favored. Are we going to see more emphasis on the early mid-game then? Is that maybe Polt's approach here, or does he, you know, knock it up a notch and try to challenge in those later stages where it is more difficult?
If he thinks he can't do better, and I'm sure it's not the case, you know, in a standard game and in a straight-up game, then we might see him try to mix in, you know, more aggressive builds early on. But Polt is definitely one guy who has, you know, a lot of faith in his capability of, you know, playing the regular game. So I'm not sure which choice he's going to go for, but I hope we see better execution from him, because I wanted to go all the way to 7 maps and see Secret Spring Apollo.
The final destination of this final. Though, thinking about the maps, it's in Inferno pools the next map here with Hydra in a lead 2-1, Fenner.
Yeah. Inferno Pool's definitely somewhere where Polt could break out another crazy strategy. I think that's the way he's going to go as well. Polt's going to have more strategies up his sleeve. He's prepared for this.
Yeah.
And so far he's shown a different strategy every game.
I mean, with Inferno Pools, though, if you think about the spawning locations, they do heavily favor races. Terran are much more favored when it becomes either close positions by horizontal or vertical positions. But if we're going to have cross positions here, which would definitely be the rather unfortunate positions for Polt, we could be looking at a 3-1. Is that something that is going to be very unfortunate if that happens here?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, going down 3-1, it's very hard to recover. Actually, I was wondering what you guys think about... It's a best of 7 Terrans versus Zerg, the Terrans Polt. Do we see any 2-racks? And if yes, on what map?
Well, definitely not this one.
Polt is not really a 2-raxer. He's never really been a 2-raxer. I think there's been one occasion that he used it on the big moment, and I think both Nate and me just lost it. It's like, what is happening? Is this really Polt? Like, you pick over in the booth, like, yeah, it's actually Polt doing this. Like, he just doesn't really do it. It's about as rare as him doing Mac.
You think this is going to happen, though, Todd? Or could happen?
I was asking you guys because I wanted you to take a risk and give me the answer.
I'll take the risk. Even though he's not really a 2-raxer, and he's done it like 1 or 2 times before, maybe a long time ago. In this series, where he's been shown to break out these all-ins, build from Wings of Liberty, I think he's got the possibility to do it, to try and make a comeback here.
I think every world-class Terran in a best of 7 has to 2-racks.
At least one time.
At least one time. No,
some of them will do it 3 times.
If they don't do it at least one time, then they're not world-class Terrans. You have to 2-racks. It's like a hidden rule of Terran players. You have to. Think of all the Terran greats in our time. MVP.
Game 7.
And I'll just stop there. MVP. Okay, Innovation's not afraid of 2-racks. Maru's not afraid of 2-racks. These guys will always do it. 4GG's not afraid to do it. It's like it's a tool that you have to use. And especially in Polt's image currently, that no one's really expected him to do it. And maybe that could be the key for him to pull it off.
Yeah, I really don't think that Hydra is going to be the guy, looking for it too. Maybe, I don't know, if it goes to 3-1, maybe Hydra will be thinking, well, I'm doing well. One of the things that Polt could try here is a 2-rack, so maybe go the extra mile to scout it. But I thought it's just interesting that we have a ZVT and we haven't yet talked about the 2-racks possibility. That's why I brought it up.
We'll see if it comes through. I really hope it does, as he has to fit that role of world-class Terran. It has to happen, guys. I'm fixated on this happening.
He needs to earn the Apollo branding.
He does. World-class
Terran.
Inferno Pools is going to be the next map. We're going to go to a very quick commercial break, but when we return, so does the Grand Finals.
I move objects with my mind. I climb the tallest mountains and slay dragons. I defend my galaxy from ruthless aliens. I am never bored. I am stronger. I am faster. I am G1.
Have ye heard the rumblings? The mountain stirs once more. Beneath its crags, cliffs, and rocks, there's evil in its core. Fire made flesh, dragon's breath, teeth and claws and flame, calling any heroes out there that are brave. Or just insane! Black Rock Mountain, a Hearthstone adventure!
All right, welcome back to the World Championship Series finals here for Season 1 of 2015 as Hydra is currently 2-1 up in this series. But before we get into game number 4, of course, a huge shout out to all of those employees over in the Blizzard offices in Irvine, California. We know you guys are watching over there and we love you to bits over here in Europe. But now, Nathanius, it's time for Inferno Pools, one of the most arguably volatile maps in the entire map pool.
You have the most wild possible spawning positions, and I'm already excited as we get ready to kick this off. Of course, there's that trophy everybody's gunning for. These two gentlemen would love to have.
Oh, and it is going to be a very interesting spawning location. Let's get into it. Game number 4, down to the bottom left-hand corner. He is arguably the challenger to the title here in WCS. He is our Root representative, up 2 games to 1. It is Root Hydra. Looked so good during these past couple of games. Looked so good during this whole tournament. And over to the right-hand side, he is Captain America, a player that has attained almost more titles than many, many other StarCraft players in the entire world. It is CM Storm Polt.
Yeah, Polt being able to take several international titles in the StarCraft scene. He's a champion. Hydra's looking for his very first, big win outside of Korea, and this is going to be the best opportunity he's had so far. Though, let's take a little chat about the map. You said it's interesting, Kalaris, and I have to agree. Close spawns, the horizontal positions. This favors really, really aggressive play. You have the shortest rush distance between the bases of these guys compared to any other map in the pool.
Yeah, that's very true. It can be extremely, extremely aggressive here. That gold base is pretty much all that separates these two spawning locations. No, but you were saying, this is Hydra's opportunity to grab himself his first major title here in StarCraft 2. He moved all the way from Korea to America to pursue that dream. You were kind of there, basically, when it came to him actually transitioning from Korea to America. What was that transition for Hydra? Was it easy? Was it difficult? Because it is quite the feat itself.
I mean, a lot of it happened because he wanted to have that opportunity that we'd mentioned before, playing in front of the foreign audience, but he was very willing to go through the whole process, being associated with Root. I had a lot of opportunities to speak to Cats throughout the process. He was working very hard. I think the team did a really good job of helping him situate everything. And it's just been nice because he had a landing pad in California to go to the Root house, the practice environment that he needed, and for someone coming over, giving up, you could say his normal comfortable lifestyle to do this, it's been pretty awesome. And I have to say, it just comes down to Hydra being a very ambitious person, willing to go long distances for what he wants in life.
And this is his golden opportunity. He stands at 2-1 here in this best of 7. Reaper is on the way with this bunker that's very, very quick because of those spawning positions. Polt really identified it very fast that he was in those close positions and is going to be sending this over with the Overlord having seen that Reaper already. So does this cause problems here for Hydra?
Well, the short rush distance means the Reapers are going to get here very quickly. That bunker finishing up means we'll see a similar start to the game that we had on Catalina, but we can't write anything off just yet because, of course, that was one of the maps that Hydra was able to take. So Polt's going to try to do some damage with this Reaper. Keep in mind that if a counterattack becomes a possibility, it's going to be equally easy for Hydra to get across the map to push Polt back.
Yeah, I was expecting something very, very aggressive on this map. I think a lot of people are when they see these kinds of spawning positions. Polt's going to pull back with this Reaper, wait to couple it up with the second one that is on the way. Third one's in production, and behind all of that, the factory gets added on as well. So still a lot of potential for aggression here for Polt.
Yeah, and we can see the result of that aggression being extra Zerglings being produced. Each larva, 2 lings, could have been 1 drone. Now, Zergling speed is still coming in. This is an opportunity for Hydra if he really wanted to get aggressive to keep mining gas, throw up a Baneling nest, and go for a super fast counter. But he's not mining much more gas. He took drones off of the extractor for quite some time, so he's just going to wait, pocket more links, and just go for a full wraparound on this bunker to knock it down.
A few more links than he was going for in the previous map, while on Catalina, of course, when he had to try and break this kind of location, as the bunker will be salvaged, so money will be saved here for Polt. The aggression has done well. He might even try and get a queen. He's getting very, very greedy there. He's going to lose a Reaper for that.
Yeah, as a Terran player, that's one of the very few things that you're willing to trade for in this game, just Zerglings. All he killed were Zerglings, but now Hydra starts up the Roach Warren. Keeping that queen alive means several key things for the Zerg player. It's that extra tumor, which he could use to speed up his units, making their way to Polt's base. He could get that eject, or he could save a transfuse if he wanted to march across the map with his queens to supplement this Roach push.
All of these links going to force the pickup here of this command center. Not really much point in him actually keeping that landed and just taking a little bit more damage. Thankfully, this Marine, though, probably will get himself an Overlord. So Hydra, maybe supply block. I say that. He's got 3 Overlords about to pop, so he should be fine with that Roach Warren as well on the way, Nathanias.
Yeah, Kalaris, I don't think he's just building 3 Overlords because he doesn't want to get supply blocked. I think with this Roach Warren finishing up, he's considering putting some serious pressure on, or at the very least, he's worried about Polt having some extra barracks hidden again. The Roaches will be great defensively. He could use them offensively. I'd still be waiting to see a Baneling Nest. Some Zergs wait for the Roaches to finish up before they start that Baneling Nest, and as we get over that 6 Roach count, 9 in production, I think we're going to see some sort of big push soon.
It's only a hop, skip, and a jump towards his opponent's natural, so Polt here has to be very, very careful about the potential of this coming along. At least he's getting a Banshee behind this, so that could help if he's able to spot it en route between these bases, and one of the Reapers is going to get caught off down to the bottom.
Yeah, all things considered, as these Roaches start to push out, the Reaper should be able to spot this, but look, the Baneling Nest starts as soon as the Roaches leave, and the Zergling production continues to go. You mentioned the Banshee. This is key. He needs to buy as much time as possible. That Banshee can't be hit by anything that Hydra's pushing across the map with, but if all the Roaches kill all the SCVs by the time the Banshee kills them, it won't really matter.
It's his best defensive tool. The Zerglings were trying to get the wraparound here on the Hellions, actually pin 1 or 2 of them against that ramp, but they do die off for their troubles. The Roaches trying to close the gap. SCV is going to have to evacuate out of this natural here. He knows that this is a problem. 2 bunkers being added on to hold off against this. He even has a Marauder already out, but it better not die. It better not die. Oh my god, he actually loses the Marauder. That was extra firepower for him to deal with this.
Yeah, he's got the Banelings on the way now too, so as the Banshee gets to work, he can use the Banelings to crack this wall open. He won't even need to do that, Kalaris.
The Banshee, it's a great defensive tool, but it doesn't have enough DPS to bring all of this down at the same time. Polt is under a lot of pressure here. The debut performance of Hydra could put himself in a position for 3-1 at the moment. SCV split. The Banelings are trying to get through and filter through. They get a big connection. 20 workers have gone down already. Polt is absolutely in shambles here in this base.
SCVs continue, and Zerglings continue to stream across the map. The 3 command center opening from Polt, just asking for too much on these spawns. Dancing wings in Polt's base.
Oh my god, he's down to 1 worker. There is absolutely no way Polt's going to be able to recover from this. Hydra takes down the stim on the tech lab, and this is going to be it. Unbelievable here to actually just take this foresight. It's Inferno Pulse. You're going to be aggressive here. Polt was not able to react to it at all, and he's got no units left via the Banshee. Also the Widow Mines, but they're not going to do much else.
Last Marauder's going to fall. Lairs on the way for Hydra. Polt is at 12 supply. Kalaris. You know, Banshees, I believe in miracles, but I don't know if I believe in this one.
He can't believe it. Polt is stunned. Polt is not leaving. He has 0 workers on the map. There is nothing he can really do here actively to bring himself back in. He's trying somehow his best to deal with this situation, landing, making a wall, but everything will die. Even if it doesn't, he dances again in a lovely circle formation, and he's got 42 workers behind this.
Yeah, Hydra's not playing StarCraft anymore. He's playing DDR with these Zerglings over here. He's having a ball inside of Polt's base. All the buildings going to lift up. He's just trying to create some sort of wall. He's going to build a hatchery in his base.
Oh my god, Polt, no, you have to leave. Hydra at the moment is absolutely destroying Polt from game to game at the moment, and he is showing him that he cannot continue on at all. He has 0 workers still, and Polt needs to, what can 2 Banshees do here, Nathanias?
I mean, I'll tell you what, I've seen a lot of games where 2 Banshees do a lot, but not at 12 minutes when you have no SCVs, no Marines, no production, and your opponent has a Spire on the way with 2 saturated bases. Hydra is taking Polt's natural. I could try to do a lot of analysis on this, but I think Hydra's looking for style points at this point.
Yeah, he is. He's looking for that S-class rank at the end of this game, that's for sure. As these 2 Banshees are going to head on across the map, probably run into a few Spore Crawlers, a few Queens, and then say, I wish we hadn't gone over here.
Yeah, I mean, the Banshees come up. They're trying to focus down some queens. He's going to get an overseer. It's like, okay, maybe they're going to get some work done, but it's not really possible for him to deal back anywhere near remotely close to the amount that he took.
Polt is trying to make the recovery of the century here in StarCraft 2. He's losing a few of those links to a Widowmine. Hatchery is going down in his natural, and I don't know how possibly these Banshees could ever make a difference. Hydra at the moment, he fell down a little bit in supply, but making more and more Spore Crawlers. Once this Spire pops up, he has 1,000 gas in the bank.
Yeah, I think the Mutalisk should be enough to finish this game up for Hydra, to put him one step closer to that first Premier title that he's been looking for since he came to America to compete in WCS. And Polt, he's just going to he gives up.
There you go, GG. Hydra making his debut performance is at 3-1 in this best of 7. He only just lost the finals a week or two ago, and now he's in another one here in the most prestigious tournament in the Western Hemisphere, where he is one map away from claiming the championship in the World Championship Series.
Yeah, Hydra has put himself in a dominating spot. Polt, a several-time champion who just seems to be, it seems crazy to say this since he's in the finals, but slumping a bit. He's been making a few more mistakes, and I have to say, when you look at it and compare it to the previous maps, Polt did not take the spawning locations into consideration for his build. Even though he went for that fast bunker, he knew with the 3 Reapers that he spawned there, he said, I'm just going to get a fast third command center. And Hydra said, well, that's something I can very easily punish when our bases are this close together.
And now map 5 between these two players will be Deadwing, a map that obviously, if you do spawn in those cross positions, even if you spawn in the vertical positions, to be fair, it's a very, very big map. A map that Hydra, obviously, both of these players are well versed on. Who are you favoring here, Nathanius? Can Polt pull this back? The potential 3-time WCS champion Polt, if he's able to win this series.
I mean, Deadwing as a map in general is pretty fair between Terran and Zerg. Most of the time, if you're Terran, you prefer vertical spawns so that you can push straight up or down the map at your opponent. There's not a lot of run-bys. That would be, on this graphic, 1 spawn versus 4 or 2 versus 3. If we get a 4 spawn versus 2, if we get that cross position, it's very difficult for Polt to move out across the map with his bio without being very threatened by counterattacks around the center that Hydra could bring.
And this is where it gets tense. This is where it gets very tense, because with Hydra, 1 map away from becoming the champion, that puts Polt, the superstar, the guy that has won tournament after tournament after tournament, on edge. There is not a whole lot of mistakes he can make from this point on, especially when you're against a player like Hydra who is so willing to exploit them.
And even you just see Polt in his booth just taking a second to just completely take a look at himself, even removing his glasses, just rubbing his face, like, okay, I really need to bring this back. And just the way that he stayed in that game on Infernal Pools when all hope was beyond lost.
Yes.
It's either one of two things. Either he's been completely mentally broken in this series, or he was just looking for a few minutes to think, recollect himself, and get prepared for this next map. This is where Polt has to turn it around if he wants a chance.
Has to make the comeback here on Deadwing. The countdown has begun for map number 5. There is the potential that this is the very last map, as Hydra, our challenger, our debut player here in the WCS, in the Western Hemisphere, is en route to take it all. Take that $30,000.
En route.
En route, yeah. Man. En route.
Root Gaming, of course. A great team to bring him out here and make that dream a possibility for him. But, it's just about time to decide if this will be Hydra's moment, if his will be that moment where he takes that first championship, or can his opponent bring us to another map?
Let's get into it. Deadwing is the map of choice for game number 5, as we have, spawning up to the top right-hand corner, our blue Zerg, representing Team Root. It is Hydra. 1 game away from lifting that trophy. $30,000 and 2,000 WCS points. Down to the bottom left-hand corner, we have our red Terran representing CM Storm. Really needs to battle it hard out here on Deadwing. It is Polt.
Polt knows what it's like to play on the largest of stages. He made it so far last year in WCS. He got into the top 16 before being knocked out by Classic. Hydra, he wants a taste of that. He wants to know what it's like to play on the biggest stage in the world for StarCraft 2, and it has to begin here. Every single victory adds up to build that road to BlizzCon, that road to the global finals where we see who really is the best of the best.
Right now, Hydra sat at 7th place in the WCS rankings and Polt at 8th. There is very little between them in terms of how they match up. Hydra has got the better of Polt almost, well, potentially 3 times in a row now, and looks to claim massive amounts of points at the start of this year. What a boost, what a boon that would be to a player that not only is participating in WCS, but also Root seems to be sending him everywhere. There is a very, very good possibility of Hydra not only causing this fantastic, fantastic moment in WCS, but also moving on to that BlizzCon.
Yeah, I expect to see him in many more tournaments outside of Korea throughout this year as more get announced, as more come up during the summer tournament season. This map, though, we talk about the spawns, the strategies that are available. It's cross-spawn.
Yeah.
Like I said, Polt pushing across the center of the map will expose him. Creep spread for Hydra will be doubly good, as if Polt tries to move out and take those pushes, he's going to either put himself into choke points by attacking below that third base area, or he's just going to be exposed in the center, and it's very easy to get Zergling surrounds, very difficult for mines to get big connections since the Zerg isn't congested at all in attacking the Terran player.
So on a map like this with these cross spawns, there is the potential here that we see a very, very long game out of these guys not wanting to take too many risks.
Yeah, you know, for Polt, if he has difficulty making those big pushes, because Deadwing itself is a map where taking those first 4 bases is so much easier than others. You really only have to defend this big entrance that we see the Reaper passing through now. Once you have that locked down, it's all about the Mutalisk trades, the drop harass, any type of run-bys that you can do with Zerglings on 5th bases. It really comes down to just how much these guys can grind out the long game, but Polt always see him go for another aggressive push.
Well, Overlord was placed strategically to spot this Reaper as it jumps up that small cliff into the main base, and these Lings are receiving in turn as that Queen will pop out and shoo this Reaper away, but his buddy is en route as well, so he's going to have to deal with another one, as well as that 3rd Reaper about to pop.
Yeah, the 3 Reaper opening once again. Cross spawns, and this is not the worst map for Reapers. There's no cliff leading, or excuse me, ramp leading into the natural, so we can see that Polt has a really good opportunity to just poke away at these Queens, and eventually he could kill the Queen, which would slow down Hydra's creep spread, potentially slow down an inject, prevent a future transfuse to help defend against a Hellbat push. But for now, Polt hasn't shown any crazy intentions. There's no second gas, and furthermore, he's getting that 3rd command center.
Well, the speed is about to finish up here. 8 drones on the way for Hydra. He is really starting to ramp that up now. He's going to have so many workers very, very soon. If the Reapers can get a kill also, great for them. But at the same time, he does have to be careful. He's stuck around a little bit too long here. There's a lot of cliffs for him to jump up and down, though, with these Reapers. Doesn't get caught on that very edge of that cliff.
Barely slips away. One of the nice things about this map, when you, especially in these particular positions, that you can just jump right down and back up. It's very difficult for the Zerglings. Even this Reaper
beautiful.
Just giving vision. That's just a cute play by Polt that shows he understands what he can do with these little units on a map like this.
Beautiful. Really, really beautiful. That being said, so does Hydra. He understands as well, separating some of those Lings down to the low ground just in case those Reapers would actually jump down. He has been able to spot this 3rd base. Obviously, he's putting a little bit of pressure to it, but the layer is coming in pretty early in the main base, so this is very, very quick for Hydra.
Yeah, Hydra's continuing to open up with this fast layer. He knows the power of the Mutalisks, is very good at deflecting against any early aggression, but Polt's not actually going for any of the aggression we saw prior. He's moving into a very standard Marine Hellion setup. There's no starport, there's no armory. I expect to see him throw on either 2 additional barracks very soon, or, well, there you have it, 2 engineering bays. He's going to play as greedy as he can and try to play off of an early economic lead to knock Hydra down and to prevent that 4th base and do as much damage as possible in the mid game.
I like it. I think that Polt has a pretty good shot going into the later stages. You know, we've always seen him time and time again have very, very good games. There's not much room to jump out here for them, but at least now the Hellions were on the way to help these guys out and maybe put on some pressure here, because that's 4 Hellions with 3 Reapers. That's quite a lot of firepower.
Yeah, even though Polt hasn't opened up with anything like a Hellbat push, he's still staying out on the map despite there being Zergling speed. He really wants to push Hydra's buttons every opportunity that he gets.
And he gets a reprint, has a look around. Doesn't really see that Spire going down at the very back. But with seeing the gases and probably inferring that there were some on the natural, hasn't seen them just yet. I think he can anticipate, after seeing it every game long, what's happened.
Yeah, and during all of this, he does now start up his extra barracks. We see that Spire is halfway done. Because he opened up with the engineering base first, you know, he can get the fast missile turrets, but the marine production delayed a bit, so Mutalisks can get a bit of work done. However, he's not going to want to send them across the map until he deals with these Hellions.
This is still quite an annoying force at the front. He will push out against it with the 2 queens, but he's going to lose himself a queen for this. Gets himself a Hellion as the focus fire was pretty good, but a second queen ends up falling.
Yeah, that's a really nice pickup. Delaying those 2 queens means pushing out creep tumors will be further difficult. He only has 3 queens at the moment, 1 for each of his bases, and if he moves any further ones out, he could miss injects, which could delay his larva production, and that means less units for Hydra to work with. And we can already see with that bank, he's getting ready to blow it all on these mutas.
Yep, Ling's on the counter, actually going into the 3rd base, whilst those Hellions are looking to pressure, and this is really good actually for Hydra, very good indeed. He's going to get some fresh mules, he got at least one of them, 3 SCVs as well, with a 4th maybe even dying off. The Lings are just going to war with the Marines, they're not going to be able to get out of there anytime soon. So trading off the submarines, okay, really nice little play there by Hydra.
Yeah. All things considered, I still like Polt's position for the way that Terran normally plays against Zerg. You rely on having things like an upgrade advantage in the late game. In this game, 1-1 is completing as it begins for the other. Polt having these early upgrades means it's very easy to take cost-effective trades. Without a Baneling Nest, I don't know if Hydra has the firepower to actually kill Polt here. In fact, this is a bit risky to move in.
Oh, raising that supply depot just in the nick of time. That being said, one of those supply depots isn't finished, and does finish, so he can repair it, but the 3rd is very, very exposed. There are some Hellions there to help that out. The Mutalisks can't quite easily dart in because that missile turret's there, so, and drones. So Hydra is going to have to fall back whilst that was going on. 17 drones in production though, Nathanias.
Yeah, you know, Hydra overstepped his bounds a little bit with that push. Like I said, he doesn't have that upgrade lead. He needs to make plays with the Mutalisks because in all honesty, he's behind in most of the other ways that you could. Aside from the supply block that Polt is now giving him basically at this point, he's behind in the upgrades. In fact, I will say this, Polt, despite having his armory, he's losing his upgrade lead by not starting his +2 upgrades.
Yeah.
He has the money for it.
Well, the left will slow down there. He does start them finally, so I think he was listening to you, Nathanias. You've got him covered, man. Coach Nathanias is on the job as these Mutalisks were still looking to maybe find a little bit of an angle to threaten on. Combat Shields is about to finish, and Centrifugal Hooks is on the way with a smidge of creep spread, but he really needs to get that going again.
Yeah, we can see the immediate impact of all those Hellions, or I guess this is kind of a lasting impact at this point. Very little creep spread, even though he's got that 4th base set up, so he can still be defensive, but now the Mutas want to get some work done.
And they get themselves 2 SCVs for their troubles, denying this assimilator from being finished, or refinery, depending on what race you are, of course, as the Mutalisks will end up darting on back.
Now 1-1 is completing for Hydra. He will have a moment now before +2 completes for Polt, where they are even on upgrades. With Baneling speed also completing, this is the actual ideal moment for Hydra to take a fight against Polt, and I don't think he has to attack Polt, but if Polt attacks him, well, you know, more power to the Zerg player.
This has got to be the very best game that Polt can bring out all series long so far, because his tournament life is on the line. He is going to have to use the build. This is the build that Polt thinks can keep him in this series. This best of 7. He has to win every single game to make sure he's able to win this title, and that is a huge chunk of money, a huge chunk of points, and prestige to tout. This is but Hydra is still playing very well on the other side. He's up at his good drone count, and he's just making units from here on out.
Yeah, Polt needs to make a choice at this point. He does not yet have that 4th command center under construction. If he wants to play the long game out, that's fine. He needs to start it soon. If he's going to make this big push, he's putting a lot of chips in the pot since that 4th base is saturated for Hydra. Hydra doesn't need to expand his economy to defend his chances at getting this first title. All he has to do is hold this big push and go for a counter.
But oh boy, is it a big push. There's 9 Widow Mines in this. He tries to catch a little bit of the army at the very front. Some of those Widow Mines already shoot off. That's a lot of Banelings still rolling forwards. The splits here from Polt, though, very, very good to start this engagement off. That being said, there was a lot of Banelings and more even coming along, going to crush their way through the majority of this bio, and Hydra takes a supply lead, but those Widow Mines could cause a bit of damage. He takes a lot of damage there. He has to fall back. The reinforcements from Polt coming on strong.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of these Widow Mines are going to burrow thanks to that drilling class upgrade. They fall on the Mutas!
Oh, he loses there's so many of the Mutalisks. Hydra went so far, so deep into trying to push Polt all the way back, and that was a costly investment for him there.
I mean, he was going for a similar play to what happened on Overgrowth when he made that big counter push Kalaris, but the +2 had finished up for Polt, so he actually has a better army at the moment, and now Hydra has to get back on the defensive.
Resources lost very much so in favor of Polt here, but he hasn't minded as much. He's trying to evacuate out of this position. He maybe have been overstepping himself. Widowmine gets a few more Zerglings. I saw you cringe there, Nathaniel. I could feel it in my bones as well, as all of these little detonations that go off are keeping Polt in this game. He's only on the 3 base at the moment. He has that 4th command center almost finished, well, finished up and good to go almost. And then from that point on, he can keep that 4 base saturation alive.
Yeah, Hydra is very aware that there's no 4th base for Polt. He knows this is a game of defend, 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 and he can win this.
A few Banelings get separated off, trying to maybe find even where some of those Widow Mines are as he moves us on forwards. But at the same time, here comes a flood of Lings again. Doesn't have that many Banelings with this first force. They actually crash into the Thor there. Not the most economy-focused trades from Hydra, as Polt is going to pull back off creep.
Oh, that medevac's so low.
Oh, you saw that coming, man. You saw that coming, but at the same time, these Mutalisks can't really compete with these. Why is he sticking around? He's going to actually lose a few of them. Polt, with a good pickup, actually now taking the supply advantage.
Yeah, one big thing to note, the extractors on the 4th are only just now being taken, so Hydra does not have the income to build Mutalisks and Banelings. He needs another couple minutes of time, but Polt, we've seen now that he finally got that 4th command center. He's going to clear out that Overlord and secure this economy without the creep spread, without the gas. How is Hydra supposed to actually stop this? I don't think it's going to be that easy for him.
More kills, more pickups. Polt now takes almost a 20 supply lead, and that will fare him pretty well. That being said, though, Hydra does have quite the economy behind it, with that 5th base potentially going down on the right-hand side. 60 extra Zerglings are in production. Here comes the infestation pit, but 3-3's on the way, Nathanius.
Yeah, the Terran player generally has the +3 upgrades much earlier. The Zerg player is supposed to rely on a superior income to get cost-effective trades. He's just going to dive on Polt now.
That's a lot of Banelings once again rolling forwards, ignoring the Thor, trying to get to the squishy units, which are the Marines at the back, which he does, taking a 10 supply advantage, and then the Zerglings and the Hydras were looking to chase on, but he is a little bit apprehensive. I think he may have spotted this drop towards the back.
Yeah, he realized after the last fight what happened when he pushed too far off creep. He just needs to press whatever advantage he can get, and in my opinion, at this point, that's taking the 5th base and trying to get all that gas, build up that muted count so he can do something against Polt.
Good cleanup by Hydra to find this medevac, not take too many losses to it, will push that back. Polt now is on the ropes a little bit. He has to sit back. He is slightly reeling. Of course, those 3-3 are on the way. That will give him a lot of firepower and momentum behind it, but he needs the numbers. It's 102 army supply against 99, and Polt is just going to sit back and resupply for now.
Yeah, there's been a lot of crazy trades between the two of these players. Hydra trying to utilize this map, swing a few Lings by, but he knows he's in a position he can win this game from. He just needs a few more big fights. He won't have to play another map. If he can just get a couple more good engagements, he can take that championship. He's so close, Kalaris.
Lings separate themselves forwards to soak up some of those Widow Mines. That's a big bio force behind all of this, but here come the Lings and Banelings. Mutalisks on the right-hand side, don't want to engage just yet. Pick up the Thors, make sure they don't get surrounded by the Lings at the front. He wants to retreat out of here. He's off creep, but that's a lot of Banelings, Nathanius.
As crazy as this looks, Hydra still has the option to back away. His Hive is completing. He can get the +3 upgrades. He can get Adrenal Glands. He could even move into Ultralisks if he wanted. I like that he's playing with just a Ling Baneling unit, but he's going to go for it.
He's got 50 Banelings during all of this, pushing up forwards. How well is Polt going to be able to hold on against it? The Lings wrap around on the left-hand side. Baneling's trying to crash in here on the right as they push forwards towards these squishy Marines. This could be Hydra's opportunity to really bring the fight here to Polt.
Yeah, he's moved in closer and closer to that 4th base. Kalaris, he's got a 40 supply lead, 72 Lings on the production tab. He's getting more mutas too.
All he needs to do now is morph in Banelings for the coup de grace, as we say here in France, as this could be very, very difficult for Polt to hold on to as this continues on. He needs to get himself that 4th base really well established. Of course, it is mining at this point, but when you're facing off against this many Banelings, this amount of army that we're going to see from Hydra, how can he continue to hold on?
I mean, for Polt, he's got to be thinking his lucky stars that Hydra's reinforcements have to cross all the way on this very, very long map distance, but Hydra has the money from that 5th base. He can lock this game down. He can try to secure this championship, this first title, by getting these +3 upgrades. I'd love to see him start his Adrenal Glands as well, maybe even mix in some burrow play. There's a lot of different alleyways that Polt's going to be moving through, and I love that he has the Lings waiting to check that 5th base of Polt too.
Here's the Mutalisk going to head over to the left-hand side. Maybe find a bit of weakness here. Those Lings already scouted out, as you've mentioned, with that 4th base, or 5th base even potentially, going to be under threat. Ultralisk Cavern is on the way. 3-3 is on the way. Static Defense is going down, solidifying the position that we're seeing here for Hydra while he is looking to threaten. There is that drop for Polt at the back. He needs to try and make some use of these things. Obviously, the map is very big. He can potentially get some damage done. Every little drone is going to count.
Yeah, this is a really nice play by Polt to try to distract his opponent, but cleaned up pretty quickly. Hydra was not able to get any run-bys in on that 5th base either way. So this game just looking like, as you said, we're going into the late game. But both players really putting their dukes up this time as those +3 upgrades get closer and closer. Even building armor and high-sec auto-tracking. I love these upgrades for Terran because it makes that planetary very difficult to crack with the building armor. The high-sec auto-tracking allows those missile turrets to shoot the Mutalisks from further away as well.
Such a back and forth game. You will find this medevac, so that's a free pickup there for Hydra. I feel that, Hydra actually pushing so far into enemy territory on the other side. Really felt like he had a good grasp on this, but Polt, look how well he's battled back. Tons of minerals in the bag. He's got a little bit of gas, catching some Widow Mines at the start. Widow Mine for Widow Mine, unfortunately, as he will get himself a few Zerglings there, but these upgrades are rapidly approaching for Hydra.
Yeah, and I think the ideal way for Hydra to posture himself as Polt pushes on the creep is to just try to play defensive with the Ultras. If Polt steps on creep, he'll gladly kill him with the Banelings and the Ultralisks. But he can sit back with the Ultralisks, force out a ton of Marauders, and then just switch into Broodlords, and Polt's going to have a very difficult time balancing his army composition against that specific Zerg combo.
Polt feels comfortable to now move towards this side of the map. Sees with the scan the Ultralisks that are there. Here comes the Mutalisks from the left-hand side. Potentially Baneling's going to move forwards with these Ultras as they do tank up some of this damage. Extra Ultra is going to enter the fray as the Mutalisks on the left-hand side don't want to engage just yet. These Mutalisks going to fight back. Polt, though, is able to take the victory in the fight, but here come the upgrades. He engaged before they were finished.
Yeah, big mistake by Hydra, moving in right before 3-3, right before chitinous plating. There's so few Marauders, he could have done a ton more damage.
Doesn't have too many units available left to him. Can the Ultralisk hold on? He's got a few Queens behind this to support, but Polt is on the warpath again here, trying to kill off all of these very, very expensive units. There's not that much left here for Hydra. He's getting to the mineral lines, Nathanias.
And the Mutants are coming in from the back, but they shouldn't be able to stop this. Too many Marines, too many Thors, 10 Ultras. Are 10 Ultras going to win this?
3 Thors are going to push this way for now, with those Mutas trying to desperately save and salvage this situation. As you said, though, 10 Ultralisks. If they all couple together and push on as one, but they're not. 3 are going to go in for this. The Mutalisks are trying to buy some time as well, but it was all a little bit disjointed. GG! Polt takes the game. Polt takes the long game here on Deadwing in map number 5. 3-2 is the score so far in favor of Hydra, but a great way for Polt to start mounting this comeback.
Captain America staying alive in this grand final, showing what for. He can still battle against the new talent coming to America, looking for that title. Polt says it's not going to be that easy.
Not at all. Not at all. As Hydra now takes quite the blow in that game. Gotta say, the way that was going, it really looked like it was Hydra favored for a while during that mid-game. But Polt, somehow, some way, was able to battle back. And that is a testament to a champion-level quality player, I think.
Yeah, battling back from just the mental defeat on Infernal Pools and then managing to get such good trades. Hydra was just a bit over-anxious, probably realized how good his position was.
All right, well, that does it for game number 5. 3-2 is the score currently. Let's hear from our experts here in the grand final.
Thank you very much, Kalaris. And what a series we have on our hands. This is excellent. We've got a lot of entertainment. We've got some high-level Terran versus Zerg, and we have a comeback on our hands with that last victory going in Polt's favor.
This is so intense right here. Polt with the comeback there. Hydra had the lead at the start of that game, but Polt just managed to defend and defend and defend, and then eventually he had enough that he could just keep pushing back, and one thing that saved him right there, in the middle of the game, big Widow Mine hits. Polt was in a bad situation. Hydra came in, some big Widow Mine hits right there, took down almost all of the Mutalisks.
You know how expensive those Widow Mine, how much damage they actually did in the middle of the game? There's so many Mutalisks, Zergs, and Bellions that went down time after time.
It was like a trail of Widow Mines, just in case he would forget where his main base is, so the Marines could always run back. It was just like a bunch of mines. It was really cool to see. Like, this was such an old school 2013, 2014-ish Polt TvZ, where you think he's about to die, and it's like, he's like, he's still hanging in there. And then you look at the supply, 198. It's like, he's actually winning this game. This is awesome. A really, really good game.
I think one thing that really stands out, though, is sometimes I feel that Hydra's a little bit overeager here.
He is.
He's taking a lot of fights. Some of them, I would say even 50% of them were off creep there, and he wasn't winning all of them, even though he was going into them. Some of them he looked good, some of them he shouldn't have taken.
Yeah, maybe he should be a little bit more patient with that. The thing is, he still really impressed me with the way he's won some of these fights. Fenner was saying during the game, how is he winning this? Like, there was a few fights where Polt was quite far ahead in supply, and then all of a sudden, Hydra just swooped in, blew up everything that Polt had with Banelings, and then all of a sudden, he was quite a bit ahead in supply himself. I didn't really get what was happening here. I guess the pre-splits against the Widowmines must have been perfect every single time.
There was one situation where Polt was on the defensive. He just got 3-3. Hydra had 2-2. Polt was pre-split. And even though it was entirely off creep, Hydra somehow managed to take an evenly efficient engagement. I was like, just blew my mind. How do you do that? You must have the perfect Baneling control against the Widowmines.
Like, even though some of his fights may look like he's a little overeager, that's also a little bit of his strength, though, because it happened in previous games where he does the exact same thing, and then other Terran players, they might survive if they don't play against Hydra, but Hydra always has like those 5-6 extra Banelings that make it spiral out of control. So that is also his strength, because he does just simply have more units than most other people do in this phase in the game.
All right, it's Vanny Research Station, and the only thing that's on my mind is 2 racks, 2 racks, 2 racks. Are we going to see it? It's a perfect map to do it on. It's a 2-player map. There's different variations of types of aggression. It can be the 2 racks. It can be 8 Reaper, I think, has been very popular here over the last couple of months.
I'm sorry, Apollo, but I'm not feeling it anymore.
No, what do you mean you're not feeling it anymore?
Paul just showed he can win like a long game against Ultras. Why would he 2 racks at this point?
Because then he can take it to Secret Spring.
Maybe he will 2 racks on Secret Spring, Sean.
Imagine if he won the championship on Secret Spring with a 2 rack.
Game 7, it's been done before. All great Terrans.
All right, we'll see if this is actually going to happen or not. I personally have to see the 2 racks, but I don't know if it's going to happen. Let's go to game number 6. Casters, take it away.
Our 2-time WCS champion here keeps his hopes alive in map number 5 there on Deadwing, as for now, it's still all against him. Hydra still only needs 1 map to win a debut tournament here in the World Championship Series. For him, Vanny Research Station will be our map. I know Apollo is feeling a 2 racks. I'm pretty sure you're probably not feeling a 2 racks tonight, Nathaniel.
No. Polt's not a cheeser, you know. It's a weakness of many great Terran players that don't cheese too often. I myself struggle. I just don't have it in me to throw those barracks out across the map all the time, Claris.
Oh, well, let's get into things. Game number 6. There's the potential that we go all the way here in the World Championship Series Grand Final. And not only did we give a shout out to Blizzard, but also just a shout out to everybody watching on the streams right now. Wherever you are in the world, it's a pleasure to be casting this Grand Finals for you here as we get into map number 6. Down to the south, it is our blue Zerg, 1 map away from attaining that trophy on stage. Representing Team Roots, it is Hydra. Looking fierce there, but was bested by this man. Up to the north, it's our red Terran representing CM Storm. Captain America, it is Polt.
And I hate to burst our expert desk's bubble, but there are no SCVs moving across the map, Kalaris. We are going to see another normal, well, so far, normal game.
And does Polt gain traction from last map? Does he now say, oh, I can do pretty well in a long game here. I think I'm going to do that again. Vanny Research Station is not too bad for it.
Yeah, Polt's made a pretty big statement with that last map win, because we saw the only maps that he was able to take off of Hydra prior to this being off of the aggressive build.
Yes.
Being able to either use maps that favored him or a lot of the Hellbat strategies. But he just showed up and he said, okay, you know what, actually, Hydra, I don't need to do some sort of cheesy, aggressive build that you don't have, that I'm relying on you not scouting in order to beat you. He's like, I can take it to the long game, and I can take it long, and that in and of itself on cross-spawn Deadwing says a lot about Polt as someone who can recover, someone who's never down and out, and would be silly to count him out at this point. Hydra really needs to be on edge, because now he knows, like, well, I guess I can't just out-mechanic this guy. It doesn't work that easily.
Spawning pool is going to be added on here for Hydra after that hatchery was already down. And now he will go for the gas as well. He knows that this map is very, very high likelihood that a Reaper could have come out, but it being command center first on the other side here for Polt, he will circumvent that for now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Polt is really concerned about anything. One of the nicest features of this map, and that's made it a very popular choice among pretty much everybody throughout the course of this WCS season, is that your expansion is tucked into the back, and Hydra's Overlord will come in, he'll see this command center, and it will immediately tell him, you know, he knows that when the CC finishes this quickly, it must have been a command center first opening, so he can immediately write off several things. He knows a Reaper won't be coming into his base, he knows he's of course not being too raxed as Apollo might have dreamed, but it also tells him that he can actually be a little bit greedier. If he wants to go straight for a third base, he can. He doesn't have to get Zergling speed. He could play a little bit more weird if he wants to. And Polt does this safely because there's only one entrance to his base and it's quite small. Very easy to wall off, very easy to defend.
So with Hydra having lost the big macro game there, does that put him on tilt a little bit? I know he is only one map away, but do nerves come into effect here for Hydra? What is going on in Hydra's mind right now?
I don't know if I could quite call it nerves, but I think Hydra's received a bit of a reality check. He got very eager to take that game, and we've seen it time and time again where Hydra gets into these advantageous positions, he pushes forward, and when he wins, it looks great. You know, it's like, wow, he sees an opportunity, but in that last game, trying to seize the opportunity before +3 upgrades might have been a little bit of a mistake. Polt, though, he's doing something very similar to the build he did on Expedition Lost. A very quick second barracks tucked behind that mineral line.
Ooh, and he could even continue this on if he wants to. There's that third barracks as well. We're seeing the creation of our previous first game come along again, but the Overlords have the potential to spot this a little bit earlier, I feel.
Yeah, so much easier, Klaus. I'm very glad you mentioned that. This airspace that he can go behind, he can check to see the gas timing. His Ling's going to poke the front. He's like, okay, well, this doesn't look too crazy. I believe he can see that the second gas was being taken. Okay, just barely out of vision range, so that is important to know. If he sees 2 gas early on, he's going to think it's Banshee. In this case, it's not gas for anything tech-wise. It's just gas to squeeze out the Marauders and get the combat shield.
Yeah. Well, the Overlord on the left-hand side is not really anywhere near at the moment, nor is it moving, and the Overlord on the right isn't moving either. So Hydra may end up going for a similar Overseer timing to how he did on the first map, but that can potentially be too late, couldn't it?
Yeah, it's actually kind of tricky because Hydra being a bit reluctant to move an Overlord in. I mean, you see the Marine patrolling, and for most Zerg players, that's the sign that you should throw a Ling up the front, but this isn't any of the other maps where you can squeeze by the ramp.
Yeah.
You're kind of stuck not knowing what's going on. So because he's not sacking the Overlord, he's going to see this coming very late, and much like many of the other games Hydra's played in this series, Kalaris, he doesn't have a Baneling Nest on the way. A Spinecrawler alone didn't cut it the first time.
Well, Leia is about to finish up. This could be the prompt for one of these Overlords to move in for an Overseer very, very soon, but we already saw how much damage this can do when that scout comes along and it has been spotted a little bit later than it needs to be. So this could get a bit scary. He's getting the Spire on the way, and once again, Hydra's going down the usual path.
Yeah, that Spinecrawler, by the way, being built at the top of the main ramp, so Hydra recognizes he may have to forfeit his third base if a big push comes. He's starting some Lings, but the Hellions cleared out the Zerglings up front, and because of this, Hydra doesn't see any of the bio actually leave Polt's base. In fact, he won't see the bio forces until he's just outside the creep.
Okay, he sees the barracks zone to the left-hand side here. They were hidden quite well by him and eventually been spotted, but here come the Hellions. They're also doing a little bit of the damage to start things off. The Baneling Nest is going down, but this wraparound, this attempted wraparound is not successful. Is this Baneling Nest in time to defend this?
I don't think so, Kalaris. The bio is getting closer and closer, and keep in mind that just like the last time he made this push, he had the Marauders up front to soak up a lot of damage. Stim is finishing, Combat Shield is finishing. He has to try to kill us with Mass Lings, but with so many Hellions, I'm not sure if he can.
Here comes Polt. He's looking to tie up this series 3-3 very, very early on. This is a very, very strong army that he has available at the front. Here comes the wraparound for the Lings. Will they be able to do enough damage? It doesn't look like. Oh, that being said, he cleaned up a lot of the Marines at the front. That is a lot of the damage actually taken away from this army.
And the Spire is ready, Kalaris. There's very few Marines. If he can just squeeze out some Mutalisks, he doesn't need a lot. He hasn't lost anywhere near the amount of forces he did on Expedition Lost.
6 are in production. Those Mutalisks, 7 now in production. He's trying to replenish the Queens that he really, really needs to be able to get all the lava out to do this. But here comes Polt, straight into the mineral lines. This is a great opportunity to do a lot of damage here before those Mutalisks actually pop. Retreating out here. Hydra knows that he needs to buy a little bit more time. He loses 8 workers, but the Mutalisks are now here to start the cleanup.
Yeah, he still has the third base. He can always re-drone. He just needs to save his workers. Hellions getting more big shots off, denying Hydra potentially his chance to get this championship right here.
Oh, 20 workers have gone down. The Hellions. I've got to ask Nathanius, though, is that enough? Is this enough for Polt now to deal with the Mutalisks later on and continue further on?
It's very, very tricky. The lack of a third command center means that Polt is way far behind economically. He did not kill the third base. It's nice to kill drones. It's nice to have mules. But at this point, the Mutalisks are going to go back across the map. They're going to be able to deal some semblance of damage. And because there's no third command center, the Hydra doesn't even have to go pure drone. He can be half drone, half ling, and still maintain an economic lead against Polt, who, like I said, is only just now getting this third command center.
Not bunching the production tab at the moment here for Hydra, just trying to replenish some of those drones that he did lose. He's back up to 44, going to be at 45 soon. The Lings will push away the Hellions, but still a lot in production for Polt. Getting these extra barracks up and running. 22 Zerglings extra are going to come out here for Hydra, and there's not much more to clean up. Is he looking to go aggressive with this?
I think the idea behind what Hydra's doing is normally it's very safe to keep the mutas back. You want to prevent those Hellion more damage. Now he has pure map control. There are no more Hellions on the map. He's going into Marine production. These Widow Mines could actually get some very juicy shots if Hydra's not careful, but he's just looking to deal a bit of damage. He could set himself up for a follow-up attack though, Kalaris. He does not have any evolution chambers to get upgrades with.
Yeah, that is true. +1 weapons is just about to finish here for the Terran, and that will help out quite a lot. As at the moment, Polt is mounting the comeback here in this series. 13 extra workers on the way for Hydra. So despite him doing a lot of damage, these bases are still very, very far away from one another. I think he sees those Widow Mines on the left-hand side. One detonated anyway while this was going on, and he is trying to find small pockets where he can do the damage.
I do like this quite a bit. Polt trying to get those upgrades going. He already has +1 attack, but the Mutas just want to delay by time, keep Polt stuck here, and delaying the armory is nice because he delays any further upgrades. And well, Hydra did get evolution chambers, so he's not looking to play off of some really fast speed baneling timing. He just wants to slow this game down. He knows he's in an okay spot.
Yep, 64 workers at the moment against 47. Looks like Polt now, once again, is pushing through the middle of the map. The Mutalisks may have to try and draw this back somehow, maybe by doing some harassment or by picking off some of the reinforcements that come along. Regardless of what it's going to be, how many banelings does he have? 0 at the moment, only 23 Zerglings available.
He does have baneling speed though, so as long as he can finish them in time, Polt, who's now making this push, he's going to have to step on a creep if he wants to do something here. He needs to check that 4th base. If Polt doesn't do anything about the 4th base, I'm actually quite worried for him. These banelings not getting too much done, but that 4th, Kalaris, it's very, very important that Hydra protects this.
Yes, it is. If he can keep his economy alive, in check, and at the same time, a little bit of a counter-attack here for Hydra to start putting back pressure here on Polt, but the majority of his army is across the map. He is going to try and push forward here with banelings. He's not microing, so he actually loses a few of those units out the front, picks up and gets away, but the 4th base is intact.
Yeah, that 4th base is so key. Being able to have that and getting some drones on there as the Terran takes the 3rd is always nice.
Pushing him back again, gets himself a medevac out, looks like, as for now, this will be difficult to pursue forwards. There's a lot of Marines there. The Widow Mine field will make sure he can't continue to pursue.
So 2 very important things. We have 12 drones on the way. These are going to use that 4th base to catapult Hydra ahead in economy. But there's not really any creep spread in front of this base. So Polt, he needs to be distracted by something like speedling run-bys, which we're about to see, or he could lose this 4th. He needs to keep it alive.
Widow Mine set up again, and in a very, very aggressive location here now, looking to just step back, and a lot of banelings actually roll into Marauders there. Hydra is getting a little bit slower as this game goes on, as this series continues on, does not want those banelings crashing into Marauders at the front. Oh, bacon banelings, and he's going to get a few SCVs for this, at least 6 or so, and then pushing in as well, trying to distract him with those banelings at the back. He cleans up the majority of the bio.
Oh! The mine shot actually just cleared up a few of his Marines too. Oh. Well, that's awkward. Hydra takes a pretty nice supply lead. He's got banelings on the way, 8 of them at the moment, and with the number of lings coming in, he still has a really good chance at making this. As long as you keep that 4th base alive, Polt is he's just bashing his head into a wall at this point.
More banelings are morphing in here for Hydra. This defense so far is looking okay for him. The Widow Mines do present still an issue, a conundrum that he's going to have to solve as this continues on. He can't really spread creep too much further forward. Good snipe out there on one baneling, and he lost a lot of banelings there for only 1 Widow Mine.
That was actually a really, really nice mine shot by Polt to be able to grab those. 2-2 is starting up now for Hydra, but Polt has that +2 attack, and he's just going to go on top of this.
Here comes the Zerg wave again. There's still a lot of Widow Mines here. They get a lot of Banelings, but at the same time, the Bios have forced all the way back to the reinforcements. He has 5 Banelings here or something like that. It's not enough to continue to push him all the way.
Yeah, Hydra's needed a little bit more oomph behind that, and his Mutalisks could have grabbed a lot of those Medivacs. The Medivacs are what make these pushes so difficult to deal with, because even though Polt has less units than he had in his original push, those fewer units are being healed at a faster rate because he just has more Medivacs to distribute those energy, the healing amongst.
Polt has decided to go all the way back home. Start phase 2 of this, going for drops on the right-hand side. Actually, there's not much vision for Hydra down that right-hand side, so that could potentially catch him way off guard. But Hydra moving towards the middle of the map here, and if he spreads these units out, he's anticipating it. He's anticipating the move here from Polt.
It's actually a pretty smart read. You think the Terran player isn't looking to push me anymore, but just barely misses. Actually runs into some other Marines. Well, that was kind of weird.
It could have been a great move. Sadly, it unfortunately does fail there for Hydra. Regardless, he's going to go into this mineral line, not really get a whole lot done. Good reactions by Polt will keep that missile turret alive. Units positioning themselves. So even if the Mutalist didn't catch it, he would still cover it as well. Double layers of protection here for Hydra.
Yeah, I really like all the units he left behind. He's just waiting with these Mutas. He can jump in at any other point in time. As soon as Polt's distracted, he could just try to focus down that missile turret, and that's when things get really awkward. But looks like the Mutalisks will come back home because he really wants to just slow this down. He's maxed out. He needs to build his advantage and try to move towards Hive.
That army is looking quite fearsome, especially if he's able to morph in even more Banelings. The Lings will get cleaned up, but Mutalisks, as well as just all the reinforcements, will come back and clean this away. And 101 Zerglings on the field at the moment here for Hydra. This army is so fearsome. And if he was going before the upgrades, that could be deadly.
Yeah, there's a really nice opportunity to move in with these +2. Generally speaking, the Terran is strongest before Zerg gets Hive after 3-3 has completed. You have that whole upgrade advantage, but Polt will only have the +3 attack advantage, and that's assuming that this push hits after that upgrade completes. Hydra could force a fight very soon, almost as soon as Polt steps on the creep.
And he is going to start cleaning up a little bit of this. Can't walk on too far forwards. That one Widow Mine, quite adventurous itself. Decides to go quite far. Those Banelings didn't do a whole lot. Didn't even get that one Widow Mine in the middle. But here comes Hydra with just a few Banelings. As Polt is already well pre-spread here.
He's playing very patiently here, Kalaris.
Yes.
He's got a lot of forces. He knows he doesn't have to take this fight, but he's just trying to get some small trades.
Once again in with the Banelings. Into the middle, disperses out from there. Gets himself a few more bio units. 46 more Zerglings on the way. 10 more Banelings. That doesn't even comprise of the entirety of his gas bank here.
Yeah, Polt steps forward a little bit more.
Oh, and he's going to go all the way in with this one. A lot of Banelings crashing on through. Some of them hit the Thors on the left-hand side, but he keels off a lot of the bio. Doesn't quite get all the way onto the back here, though. 10 more Banelings do yet live. Rolling on forwards, pushing back this bio force. The Thor is going to fall as well, and Hydra has been able to clean up everything, but the reinforcements from Polt continue to hold this position.
Yeah, he's really trying to continue to lock this down. At the same time, he's able to get some Lings back at that 4th, but Polt, he's not giving up. Not just yet.
Oh, he's stepping into the fray here at the 4th base. If he can do some big damage, that would be great for him. That's a lot of Marines. The Zerglings alone, without any Banelings, have had to move on forwards to try and delay this out. It's not exactly the best situation here for Hydra, but here come the Banelings. They could be the difference makers. He's going to have to pick up and get out of there.
Yeah.
Oh, good pickup.
This fight, losing all those Mutalisks really makes it hard to chase down those Medivacs, Kalaris.
More Banelings end up dying up to this force. Polt is really making a meal out of this one. There's not that many Banelings left at all here. None at all, as Hydra tries to morph in some, but he's going to lose this 4th base, Nathanius.
He took the gold base at the bottom right, but I don't know if he can recover from this. There's so much Terran.
He's losing every single unit as well. All the Banelings are forced to not morph in, and all the drones have to go behind the mineral line to keep themselves alive. Polt is putting on pressure after pressure at this 4th base, trying to bring it down. Lings flood in again. He can't have any time to morph in all the Banelings, and this is still a good trade for Polt despite being pushed away.
Polt with the 4th base economy in this endless rally has a substantial lead in this game. With no Mutalisks to threaten his medevacs, he can just split and kite all day, Kalaris.
Power, total dominance over this location, still not allowing him to morph any banelings. The Lings have to go to war without their little baneling counterparts that are morphing in this mineral line. Gets right on top of them though, and if he can bring all those down before they actually morph in, that would be great. But some get to morph in, he has to pick up once again, get out of there. That Thor doing a little bit of damage to the Mutalisks. He's actually down so many Mutalisks. He's only at 6 right now, so he doesn't even have the air presence to be able to shut down the medevacs when they run away.
Yeah, this has just been slowly teetering out of control. Even though Polt still dropping below 100 supply, he's close to overextending with this rally since Hydra has more money than it might seem. He's got that gold base at the southeast position. This gives him such a boost in income without needing to have a crazy worker lead.
In the last 10 minutes, Hydra has gone up about 50 APM as an average. He has been playing out of his mind fast during this past 10 minutes to try and deal with this pressure that is constantly coming down the left-hand side here for Polt, and he can't seem to break it. Constantly, the Brainlings will split on forwards. Hydra takes a supply advantage. He's going to pursue this back towards the reinforcements, though, and that's where Hydra gains a little bit of extra momentum throughout all of this.
This has just been such a crazy string of engagements, but you know, Kalaris, the thing is, with all the Mutalisks that have been knocked down, there's not a good way to counter against Polt. With the Planetary Fortress locking that 4th, you can always retreat to this position. The splash damage that the Planetary Fortress offers is incredibly strong versus this. Unless he tries to make one big wave of Banelings to knock it straight down, Polt can still recover from this position.
The goal base on the right-hand side has been the saving grace of Hydra here so far, whilst all that pressure was down on the left-hand side. Polt does not really yet know about that, I don't think, as everything has been focused here on the left. No, he doesn't know about it, so very difficult, but this drop on the right-hand side is going to be able to pick up the information and maybe even pick up some drone kills.
Yeah, at the same time, there's still a lot of Banelings on the left side. Hydra was perhaps considering making a move on that base.
Okay, can't really step on too far forwards. Polt is still planning his attacks down the left. The drop on the right-hand side did get cleaned up in the gold, but now it's heading over towards that natural, which there's not much to clean up there, actually. He's more favoring this position. Oh, that hatchery is very low. Just a one little more scrape will come along, but Hydra has to try and go in without his Banelings. He gets the shot down. He will be able to pick that up, and he's going to pick up the rest of those Marines as well. Get out of there. Wow. Oh, wow. Is Polt trying to battle back here in this final?
It looks like Hydra wants to try to catch the units retreating, but he's got that minefield and that planetary to fall back to.
Here comes the wave of the Zerg once again. Will he be able to break down this location? Polt is free spread very nicely against this. The fire advantage is in favor of Polt. GG! And Game 7 is forced as Polt mounts the comeback here in the World Championship Series Finals. An unbelievable 2 games we've just seen from Polt to force it to game number 7. Nathanius, you have cast this guy time and time again in the WCS. This is potentially his 3rd championship here. Is he going all the way? Can he do it?
You know, it's just been such a crazy series. Polt laying it all out with these rally pushes. At any point, one miscontrol can throw the entire game out of whack. Those Mutas can counter push if the Widowmines don't get those Banelings and the Marines die. That 4th gets knocked down. He's never able to recover, and suddenly we see Hydra take that championship. But Polt says no. He's done a phenomenal job of controlling everything exactly the way he needs to, letting those Marauders, letting those Thors soak up enough of the Baneling hits that there's no way for him to clear out the Marines, and that kept the Mutalisk count low enough that he could never counter harass. This has just been an absolutely crazy series. Polt showing a bit of that old fire that we were talking about in the pregame, and well, I guess throughout this whole series now.
Both players have shown the makings of champions, with Polt being able to mount the recovery, Hydra having this amazing run through the tournament so far, having beaten Polt twice in the qualifiers for this season and in the main season itself. But now Polt, 1 game away from the magical recovery here in this best of 7. And Nathanius, we go to Secret Springs to settle it all. A map that I don't think we've seen once here in the entire round of 16.
And they don't call it Secret Springs for no reason, Kalaris. Very people know all the nuances about this map. We've played it so rarely, we don't even have that many map stats for it. It is a pretty small map when it comes to rush distance between bases, but that distance can be cut very quickly. There are 2 destructible rocks in the center center that can close all paths. If you want to play passive, you can knock him down fast. We haven't really seen too much high-level play. I have no idea what to expect on this map.
Not at all, This is crazy. Secret Springs, as we say, apparently it was hidden by the Easter Bunny. It was that secret during all of this. And we find it in now a best of 7 in the concluding map of the World Championship Series, Season 1. I can't call this either way. I don't think you can either, Nathanias, because right now, Polt is playing out of his mind. Hydra had a great start to this series, but he is on the ropes as we get into game number 7. On the right-hand side, it is our blue Zerg. For one last time here in Season 1, it is Root Hydra. And to the left of Secret Springs, mounting what is, at the moment, an amazing, amazing comeback, representing CM Storm, 1 game away from claiming his 3rd WCS title. It is CM Storm's Polt. Nathanias, I'm all worn out, but I've got it in me for one last game. I'm sure you do as well. This has been an amazing final.
Yeah, Secret Springs, one of the maps. Those of you who are brave enough to play it on ladder have seen all varieties of proxies, early pools, and every flavor of cheese you could find at the French Bakery. This is going to be a very interesting game no matter how it plays out, no matter which way these players choose to go. If you want to play standard, that's fine, but there's only 3 choke points that you can walk through on this map, Calaris. That center one is tight enough that it fits within the radius of a Widow Mine, and for any Zerg, that can mean certain death. Hydra's going to want to make plays around the sides. He can make big Mutalisk plays, but at the same time, we've also seen Terrans play with lots of Reapers. I think Polt's just about to pass the phase where we could see that, but we have to keep our eyes open for it.
You get all sorts of crazy, weird base trade scenarios going on this map as well, with how the chokes work out, with the way you normally expand down towards your 3rd base and then 4th base, potentially from that point on. It's an amazingly hectic map that's the reason you don't see it too much, because it prompts all these very weird situations that meta on other maps are just not a thing of.
Yeah. I mean, when I think back to competitive matches that have been played on this, you're trying to pull strategy, right? Well, we could always go back to Maru versus Life, where we just saw a bunch of Reapers. Yeah. And, we're already past that phase. So without a second barracks, Polt can't do that. So what else is there? And the reality is, you could try to section off those choke points with mech, but Polt doesn't do anything like that. So we have to write that off. And maybe the short rush distance can go for an all-in, but all these guys need to do is be very aware of what's going on. Any early push can be severely delayed by knocking down either one or both of those destructible rocks that we can see the Reaper now passing by.
Both players have to bring out their absolute A game here in this final game. In map number 7 of a best of 7, it very rarely, when we have a best of 7 series, goes all the way. But Polt and Hydra are so heavily well matched in this final series. One can become a 3-time champion. One can seal his 1st ever title of all time in StarCraft 2. Whichever way this goes, everyone's a winner, apart from the 2nd place.
Well, I mean, you still get $15,000 and a hell of a lot of WCS points, but
that's pretty good.
I see your point, Calaris. No one wants to go home with the 2nd place trophy. Polt is opened up very similar to everything that we've seen prior. This is still a really good map for Reapers. I don't dislike this build. He's putting on as much pressure as he can. He can follow this up with Hellions. Key things to note because of the way this map is laid out. That 3rd base is very far away from the main ramp. If Hydra tries to get a 3rd base anytime soon, Reaper Hellion will do a phenomenal job of punishing him for that very quickly.
Polt behind this with the double command center, just playing very, very greedy to start things off. The 2nd command center is actually in range of an overlord, so he does know on the other side that is going on. Meanwhile, quite a few Zerglings actually popping out here, 8 in total to fend this off, and the speed might kick in. Let's see if Polt can deal with that. The thing is that there are cliffs to jump up and down in the middle of this map that do make those Reapers all the more super mobile.
Oh, they're quite hard to catch. I've cheesed many a Zerg on this map, Calaris. I know all about that. It's quite a fun map to play with the Reapers. There's, as you said, so much space to work with, but you can also jump into the center positions, like those gold bases. Like, if speed finishes, Polt actually has a lot of avenues to escape through.
Well, he's going to kill off a few Zerglings. Those Zerglings Zerglings moving out this far, though, does give rise to the idea that they will have speed soon. As Polt understands that, he will micro on back and get to that cliff easy peasy. And he's even looking for a few more kills, this cheeky little guy.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, he's delaying those Lings from moving across the map, which buys him time to do whatever it is that he wants to do. And for the purposes of this game, Polt opening up with that second gas and getting this hidden starport once again. Maybe we just see him go right back to that Marine Hellbat Reaper timing.
A little bit difficult for him to spot right at the back of these mineral lines. Polt has been a tricky guy throughout this entire series. Almost in every single game, he has hit things behind the mineral line.
Yeah, what this is all going to boil down to, Kalaris, the owner of this championship could come down just to this push that Polt is preparing himself to make. Hydra's once again gone for the fast layer. We know that he likes to play this Spire Tech. We've seen it every single game in this series, and there's the armory. Polt is preparing for one last big push. He could put himself into a winning position to take the championship, or he could throw it all away with this attack coming in just under a minute.
Caesar 2 gas guys is at the natural, and that will give rise to, again, a good vision of what is going on here. He's still on 2 base. What else is he going to be doing on 2 base as this Reaper tries to get a little bit more information? Sees another gas geyser, has seen 4 gas geysers on 2 base. Now he knows exactly what he's going to be playing against, regardless of seeing that Spire or not. These Hellbats at the front will morph in very, very soon, and even takes 4 Hellions all the way to the back.
Polt's going to split up his forces. We've seen before how this negatively affected how much success he had, because Hydra's actually really good at fighting in the small numbers against this. We already see the Queen just pushing him away.
And he's actually just going to pick everything. Oh, such a move. Okay, he actually missed one have done there, but then he's going to bring everything up to the high ground.
This could be it. He's going to try to deal a game-winning amount of damage right here.
That's a lot of Lings he has, but that's a lot of splash damage as well in these Hellbats, as he has positioned himself between these 2 bases. Could cut off reinforcements on the right-hand side. A lot of the Lings dying off. Polt is going to be able to push on through this. The Spinecrawler has taken a ton of damage. There's the Transfusions, though, trying to keep it alive. He absolutely needs to keep it alive against the Hellbats here that are punishing this position and absolutely wrecking everything.
The Queen control has been phenomenal. Hydra lost the Spine, but it did its job, Kalaris. That Spine did its job. And guess what's on the way?
The cleanup from that point on. Here come the Mutalisks, 7 of them. Double evolution chamber going down while this is happening. Another hatchery on the way for that macro as he's taken his 3rd base up to the top left. It hasn't been punished. Polt hasn't even gone there at all, hasn't even spotted it. He can kind of put some idea in motion that one would be there eventually, but with the Mutalisks on the way, the Hellions can't do anything else.
At this point, Hydra's goal, his focus needs to be A, get rid of these Hellions. B, start up the upgrades, and C, look for any opportunities to deal damage with the Mutalisks. One of the rare opportunities that Hydra will get, because this map is Secret Springs, he can knock down those rocks with his Mutalisks and Zerglings and then just harass at the Mutas all day.
Well, he better not harass that refinery, that's for sure, because at the moment that has 2 Widow Mines behind it. Does not want to be going in that direction at all.
But I love this. He's really creating a large space where Polt cannot counterattack via ground for a significant period of time. So it's basically just going to be how much damage can Hydra do with the Mutas.
Viking overstayed its welcome over here at the Overseer, as he will be able to pick that off, and this Overseer can be used as multi-purpose now. We'll probably spot some Widow Mines if he tries to dive in and try and do a little bit of damage here and there. But there are already missile turrets covering the reactors as well as the tech labs for the most part.
Yeah, at this point, it's all about Hydra just slowing him down. That 3rd orbital moving out is where Polt will make himself most vulnerable to any form of harass. Of course, the other side of this equation where he blocks off the Marines from attacking, that the Ling counterattacks are going to be slowed down too, so he has to get to work on these rocks. That, of course, is going to take him a little bit of time, and then he wants to make big plays in this 3rd, which, by the way, he was already blocking with an Overlord.
Well, so what, from the Terran perspective, what are the trials and tribulations that Polt is going to actually have to face here on Secret Springs? Because we just haven't seen it all tournament, and now we get to see it in the very final game of the series. What does he have to face off? What is he worried about?
Heavy Muta play. As Polt looks to a potential long game, you can bounce between that main base and the 3rd so fast with Mutalisks. Like it's just one cliff away, which is a bit trickier for the Terran forces to deal with. Those Widow Mines you mentioned earlier are very important in defending positions like that. But he could also later on bounce between a potential 4th at the bottom position and the natural expansion. There's a lot of ways to abuse a Terran with Mutas on this map, as long as he can defend the frontal assault.
I was going to ask what is the Zerg scared of, but at the moment, you know, Hydra seems pretty well set up. He's got some good creep spread going in the middle of the map. He's getting his 4th base down to the right-hand side, and there's not too many units for Polt to threaten with right now.
Yeah, I really like that he takes this 4th base, and the reason behind that is because the 3rd is towards the north. If Polt wants to push to the right side, not only does he have to break those rocks, but he's exposing his 3rd to counterattack since the rally will not pass by it, whereas he'd love to just push up to this base and attacking the 3rd where there's already creep situated. This is the ideal defensive position for Hydra.
Banelings are to the south here in the Shroud, and Polt doesn't know about them just yet, but he does now, as the Widowmines are going to try and set themselves up.